What if a dying ant could devour the entire world? When all of humanity is transported to the insect world, everyone awakens powerful S-rank spirit insects such as the death mantis, the scorpion king, and the flame beetle. However, our protagonist receives what is considered the most useless companion of all, a dying queen ant. Everyone laughs at him, believing that Chen Tian has already been eliminated from the game before it even begins. But what they don't know is that every time the queen ant lays eggs, its bloodline undergoes a mutation. A single soldier ant can tear monsters apart with one bite. A swarm of flying ants is enough to darken the sky. And billions of evolved ants will turn the entire world into Chen Tian's domain, because he possesses a unique talent known as Bloodline Evolution. As long as he levels up, he can evolve the bloodline of any living creature. Starting with a dying ant, Chen Tian builds an army powerful enough to make the entire insect world kneel before him. The crushing reality of the cosmic shift settles heavily into the dim silence of a desolate cave where Chen Tian, a 21-year-old former university student who once spent his days buried in textbooks, finds himself standing frozen as his mind goes entirely blank, staring down at a monstrous, car-sized insect that lies weakened and trembling upon the cold earth. As a fragile human survivor initially ranked at the mere baseline of the normal early stage, he quickly pieced together that this gargantuan creature is not a nightmare to be feared, but his very own lifebound insect, a magnificent, yet dangerously exhausted, normal queen ant. Driven by a mixture of trepidation and curiosity, Chen Tian approaches the massive beast, gently placing his palm against her rigid forehead until a brilliant, mesmerizing golden light erupts from the point of contact, enveloping both man and monster in a profound, soul-binding contract that surges through his veins with intoxicating power. The silence of the cavern is suddenly shattered as a gentle, fiercely loyal, yet distinctly maternal, feminine voice echoes directly inside Chen Tian's mind. Introducing herself as Ying and weakly murmuring that while she is desperately frail and on the verge of slipping into a temporary coma, her life is not in immediate danger, a promise she fulfills by instantly dropping into a deep, restorative slumber. Left entirely to his own devices, Chen Tian helplessly summons his glowing status panel, which starkly details his own vulnerable mortal state alongside Ying's entry, which boasts a world-altering hidden potential known as the Bloodline Purification talent, a unique trait promising that with enough time and leveling, this single slumbering queen will eventually spawn an unstoppable army of millions through evolutionary branches like the Bronze, Silver, Golden Tyrant, Epic World, Legendary Star, Swarm, and ultimately the mythic Infinite Evolution Queen. Needing to secure their immediate survival, while his new guardian sleeps, the young pioneer steps toward the jagged maw of the cave entrance, gripping a stray wooden branch with white-knuckled caution as he ventures out into a volatile, unknown world. His careful exploration is rewarded sooner than expected when he stumbles upon a murmuring river, prompting him to celebrate his incredible first-day luck before spotting a sleek, dark shadow darting through the shimmering currents. Acting purely on survival instinct, Chen Tian raises his makeshift wooden club and smashes it downward with a thunderous splash, killing a bizarre creature that floats to the surface. Upon scooping it up, his analytical interface identifies it as an insect fish, a common, perfectly edible, normal early-stage aquatic organism. Realizing he has found a viable food source, a wave of pleasant surprise washes over him, driving him into a frantic, morning-long fishing frenzy where he relentlessly whacks the water, though the elusive prey ensures he returns with a meager haul of only 5 specimens safely tucked into his spatial storage. Sprinting back to the shelter of the cave, Chen Tian gently rouses the slumbering Ying, and selflessly lays the 5 fish before her, promising to return with a grander feast by nightfall before turning on his heel to rush back out to the riverbanks. The afternoon sun beats down as he enthusiastically resumes his hunting, but the joyful rhythm of his harvest is abruptly shattered when a terrifying, smooth-bodied insect eel, a carnivorous normal mid-stage predator, erupts from the depths with its bloody maw wide open in a lightning-fast ambush. Terrified but refusing to die, Chen Tian instinctively recoils, waiting for the absolute perfect, breathless millisecond to swing his wooden stick forward with every ounce of strength he possesses. A sickening thud echoes across the water as the predator goes limp, though the cautious youth steps forward to stomp the beast into the mud several times just to ensure its demise before storing the prize away. With his inventory now swollen with 36 insect fish and a single rich insect eel, Chen Tian notices the shifting shadows of the afternoon and decides it is time to chart a path back, but as he passes an ancient, towering tree, the dangling, fibrous vines spark a brilliant flash of ingenuity in his mind. Realizing that weaving these durable vines into primitive traps would make his aquatic harvesting infinitely easier, he eagerly harvests a massive bundle, only for his efforts to be interrupted by a strange, muffled mechanical hum radiating from a nearby thicket where a mysterious treasure chest sits half buried in the soil. Thrilled by the discovery, he flings the chest open to reveal 3 floating, radiant orbs of light. The first solidifies into a heavy, bronze-quality large broadsword that offers no extra attributes but provides a desperately needed upgrade to his weapon arsenal. Greedily claiming the remaining rewards, he watches the interface manifest a bronze-quality planter box, designed to accelerate indoor crop growth by 15% for normal seeds, alongside a vital torch blueprint requiring 3 vines and a piece of solid wood to banish the terrifying night. After stowing these treasures away, Chen Tian reviews his primary base stats by opening the shelter function, which reveals his current home to be a dilapidated level 1 ant nest, a broken, indefensible cave, requiring a steep price of 120 pieces of wood and 100 stones to fortify against impending wilderness invasions. Realizing his current stockpile falls desperately short, he spends the remainder of the sun's descent combing the rocky riverbanks, enduring a grueling afternoon of hard labor to amass 360 stones, 30 more insect fish, and 4 additional insect eels. Just as the bleeding twilight begins to darken the sky, signifying that he should retreat, his sharp eyes catch the unmistakable glint of a metallic chest nestled deep within a thick bush on the perilous opposite bank. Disregarding the encroaching darkness, Chen Tian sprints across the shallow water and pops the lid to discover 2 spectacular prizes: 10 silver-quality blood chi chicken eggs, which possess a natural suppression over lesser insects and are guaranteed to unconditionally bond with the first creature they see upon hatching, to massively boost physical stats when consumed, and 20 normal-quality sweet potatoes, which the young man instantly cradles like priceless, life-saving relics of the old world, knowing they represent the absolute undisputed king of sustainable agriculture. Packing his magnificent loot, he races through the pitch-black wilderness, arriving back at the level 1 ant nest just as night completely swallows the land. Stepping up to the resting queen ant, he gently coaxes her awake and unceremoniously dumps the fresh pile of insect fish before her. Ying opens her formidable jaws and begins to ravenously wolf down the offering, a sight that brings a warm, genuine smile to Chen Tian's weary face as he sits beside her, happily gnawing on a raw, hearty sweet potato of his own, until both human and insect are thoroughly stuffed. As the dense nutrients rapidly restore the queen ant's vital energies, Chen Tian sets to work installing his new bronze planter box near the cave entrance, watching a neat 2-square-meter plot of rich soil materialize before burying a sweet potato seed deep into the earth. With his immediate chores finished, he leans his tired body against the warm, reassuring bulk of Ying, pulling up the global communication interface to scroll through the chaotic chaos of the chat channels. A particular user's message catches his eye, prompting Chen Tian to immediately initiate a private trade inquiry. But after waiting a long, agonizing time in the silence of the cave, no reply comes from the vast network of survivors. Refusing to let the night go to waste, he pivots to the bustling trading area, wincing slightly at the dazzling, predatory array of random items listed with utterly ridiculous, extortionate price tags by desperate players. Spotting an undeniable gap in the market for basic sustenance, Chen Tian strategically lists 10 of his fresh insect fish for sale, demanding a precise fee of 10 pieces of wood per fish. To his absolute amazement, the items vanish from the market the exact microsecond they go live, prompting a sly, triumphant smirk to cross the young survivor's face as he immediately lists another 20 insect fish, boldly raising the stakes to demand 15 pieces of wood for each one as he prepares to dominate the economy of this brutal new world. The desperate, feral economy of this broken world operates with a predatory swiftness, and before Chen Tian can even fully process the transaction, his second listing of 20 insect fish is snatched up in a matter of frantic seconds, vanishing into the digital ether. Gazing into his spatial storage at a newly consolidated treasury of 400 pieces of pristine wood and 360 heavy river stones, the corners of his mouth curl into a triumphant, calculating smile that reflects the cold ambition of a true monarch of the endless swarm. With a casual flick of his wrist, he summons the glowing holographic blueprint of his shelter, but just as his finger hovers over the upgrade mechanism to fortify his sanctuary, a crimson server-wide announcement flashes violently across the chat channel, instantly pinned to the top of the interface by the unseen orchestrators of this survival game. Unfazed by the ominous warning, Chen Tian dismisses the chat interface with a sharp swipe of his hand and decisively presses the upgrade button, triggering a blinding, cascading pillar of pure white light that violently erupts from the heart of his cavern. As the brilliant luminescence slowly recedes, the once shabby, shallow cave stands completely transformed into a level 2 ant nest, its raw stone floor now split by a wide, meticulously excavated tunnel plunging straight down into the earth, while a protective 10-meter territory radius pulses outward from the mouth of the lair. The newly unlocked Level 2 Facilities panel details an array of vital subterranean constructions, listing a cozy bedroom for 100 wood, a specialized workbench for 50 wood capable of crafting normal and bronze tier items from blueprints, an incubation room for 50 wood and 50 stone, a royal queen's chamber for 50 wood and 50 stone, and a massive tier 3 nest upgrade priced at a steep 600 wood and 500 stone. Recognizing that his current material stockpile is more than sufficient to establish a functional core base, Chen Tian clicks build on the bedroom, the queen's chamber, and the incubation room without a single shred of hesitation. A low, rhythmic tremor pulses through the bedrock as invisible forces carve out the underground chambers, weaving earth and timber into a perfectly structured labyrinth. Stepping over to the resting form of Ying, his premier normal queen ant, the young survivor gently nudges her massive, armored flank, waking her from her restorative slumber so they can explore the freshly dug depths of their subterranean domain together. Descending into the cool, dark tunnel, the gentle and fiercely loyal queen uses her innate telepathic bond to murmur a soft, maternal question into her master's mind, asking if an incubation room has indeed been prepared for her children. Chen Tian responds with a confident, reassuring nod, guiding the colossal insect directly into the humid, sterile incubation chamber. The moment her massive tarsi cross the threshold, Ying's gargantuan body trembles with an instinctual, biological frenzy, her abdomen pulsing rhythmically as she begins dropping large, pearlescent insect eggs onto the soft earth with mesmerizing speed. Watching these palm-sized, dark-lustered spheres clatter softly against the dirt, Chen Tian's heart leaps into his throat, a surge of adrenaline leaving him so profoundly excited that he nearly jumps for joy at the sight of his burgeoning empire. When the exhausting process finally ceases, exactly 12 identical eggs lie neatly aligned in a pristine, flawless row upon the cavern floor. Smiling warmly, Chen Tian reaches out to gently pat the queen's massive forehead, leaving her to rest in her custom chamber while he retreats to his newly fashioned bedroom. Collapsing onto the simple bed, the absolute exhaustion of his first day in the apocalypse catches up to him, and he plunges into a deep, dreamless sleep, completely oblivious to the dangers lurking in the world above. The following morning breaks with the soft, persistent mental nudges of Ying, who stands over his bed chattering with an anxious, nanny-like urgency about hurrying back to the riverbank to catch more fish, only for Chen Tian to yawn, stretch his limbs, and chuckle that there is no need to rush since he has yet to unlock his coveted newbie gift pack. Reaching into his spatial backpack, he manifests the glowing gift container and eagerly tears it open, releasing a brilliant flash of prismatic light that deposits a sturdy treasure chest and 3 floating, radiant orbs into his waiting hands. Upon grabbing the spheres, they instantly materialize into a deluxe survival trio: 2 crystal-clear bottles of mineral water, a high-calorie pack of compressed biscuits, and 2 reliable lighters, prompting the young college student to swear under his breath in pure delight at securing food, water, and fire all at once. Turning his attention to the bonus treasure chest, he pries it open to reveal 2 highly valuable, shimmering spheres of energy which reveal themselves as a bronze-quality universal growth accelerator, capable of doubling the maturation speed of normal creatures, and a silver-quality cool spring pool that promises an infinite, self-sustaining supply of refreshing water. Leaving his bedroom with newfound purpose, Chen Tian marches to an empty clearing within his territory and deploys the magical pool, watching in awe as a pristine basin radiating a thick, chilly mist materializes on the ground before he hurries into the incubation room to maximize his resources. Uncorking the universal growth accelerator, he carefully unloads the golden liquid onto the 12 pristine ant eggs, causing them to vibrate violently as a series of sharp, crisp cracks echo through the silence. Within heartbeats, the shells shatter completely, and 12 fully matured adult ants splintered into specialized builder, farmer, miner, transport, and specialized combat strains like blade, shield, spear, archer, and assassin types rise from the fluid, their chitinous carapaces gleaming with a terrifying, dark luster that leaves their master completely satisfied. Capitalizing on his momentum, he retrieves the 10 silver-quality blood-chi chicken eggs from his spatial backpack, lays them safely near the incubator, and applies a potent drop of the accelerator before spinning around to face his newly hatched, fiercely loyal insect legion. Raising his fist, he commands them to follow him to the hunting grounds, leading his disciplined, silent grand army out into the blinding glare of the post-apocalyptic sun. The small battalion soon arrives at the murmuring riverbank, where Chen Tian waves his hand forward, ordering his swarm to dive into the current and harvest as much aquatic prey as humanly possible. But just as the ants begin splashing into the water, a sudden trading notification pings on his vision. A survivor named Tianming offers a humble trade of 10 sections of durable bamboo in exchange for 20 grams of food. Chen Tian frowns slightly, his analytical, college-educated mind calculating the margins as he replies that he requires bamboo saplings that can be actively cultivated, demanding 20 sections for 20 grams of his compressed biscuits, while noting his preference for meat or clean water. A quick deal flashes across the screen, finalizing the transaction and granting Chen Tian 20 sturdy sections of hollow bamboo, which he promptly submerges in the fresh river water, filling them to the brim before sliding them into his spatial inventory. Almost immediately, a desperate Tianming pings him again, begging the boss if he has any more food to spare for a subsequent trade. But before Chen Tian can type a response, Ying's telepathic voice rings out excitedly from a nearby reed bed, calling for her master to come quick because she has discovered a hidden treasure chest alongside a massive haul of insect fish. Hurrying across the slippery stones, Chen Tian finds his magnificent queen standing proudly beside a weathered wooden chest, her formidable mandibles clamping down on several struggling, metallic-scaled insect fish. He swiftly absorbs the chest into his inventory and affectionately pats her rigid head, praising her incredible work while claiming 3 of the fish for his own stockpiles and allowing her to greedily crunch down on the remaining catch with a cheerful, telepathic click of gratitude. Reopening the private message panel with a smirk, Chen Tian contacts the buyer, stating that he now possesses rich, raw meat but demands a live, plantable bamboo sapling in return. The desperate counterparty agrees instantly, trading an astounding 50 sections of harvested bamboo and 5 living saplings for a single normal insect fish. Amused by the trader's sheer generosity, Chen Tian remarks that he won't hold back, to which the individual introduces himself as Zhou Chang, expressing an urgent desire to establish a long-term, mutually beneficial partnership by sending a formal friend request. Accepting the request under his true name, Chen Tian maximizes the transaction by trading 9 more insect fish and 5 water-filled bamboo tubes for a massive shipment of 500 empty bamboo containers. Closing the digital interface, he gathers his chittering, hyper-efficient swarm, dividing the 12 ants into 3 distinct, highly organized squads. One dedicated entirely to filling the 500 bamboo tubes with fresh river water, one for logging the dense surrounding timber, and one for mining the heavy river stones. While his mechanical workforce tears into the local landscape with terrifying efficiency, Chen Tian and Ying venture further upstream, their eyes peeled for any hidden anomalies or high-tier resources in the uncharted wilderness. By mid-afternoon, the duo breaks through a thick wall of brambles into a sun-drenched, overgrown clearing, where a sprawling, wild watermelon patch instantly catches the young man's eye. Rushing into the tangled vines, his excitement plummets as he discovers that 9 of the 10 massive watermelons are already completely rotten, leaking foul, fermented juices into the soil. However, a lone, pristine fruit lies untouched in the far corner of the patch. Snatching it up with bated breath, his system panel flashes with a brilliant silver quality notification for a white-green watermelon, noting its profound ability to permanently enhance a survivor's physical physique upon consumption. His breathing quickens as he realizes that silver-grade agriculture is utterly extraordinary, and looking down at the surrounding rot, a brilliant stroke of genius hits him. Though the decaying flesh is inedible, the genetic blueprint remains fully intact within their seeds. Whipping out his bronze large broadsword, he aggressively slices open the mushy, putrid melons, plunging his bare hands into the slime to frantically dig out the slick, black seeds until he has amassed a treasure trove of 26 viable seeds. Grinning from ear to ear at the prospect of a massive, stat-boosting farm, he turns back toward the riverbank, his footsteps light with anticipation. Upon returning to the base camp, he is greeted by an incredible sight. 3 immense, neatly sorted piles of heavy stones and several massive logs lie stacked on the dirt, while dozens of freshly slaughtered insect fish float lazily on the water's surface. One of his loyal soldier ants, spotting its master's return, scampers out from beneath a fallen timber, proudly holding a radiant, glowing white silver treasure chest tightly within its razor-sharp mandibles. Stunned by his immense luck, Chen Tian gasps at the sight of the silver chest, muttering that the heavens themselves must be watching over his ascension as he accepts the container, affectionately strokes the soldier ant's antennae, and stows the prize away. Turning to his exhausted, fiercely loyal insect swarm, he swells with a profound sense of pride, declaring loudly to the clearing that everyone has worked incredibly hard and that tonight will be a glorious feast where they can eat as many of the river fish as their bellies can hold. Ying clicks her mandibles in absolute delight, telepathically cheering that she won't hold back, prompting Chen Tian to laugh out loud, encouraging them to fill up because there is still heavy structural work to be completed under the cover of night. The ravenous swarm descends upon the aquatic carcass pile like a shadow, devouring the fish in a matter of minutes while Chen Tian methodically walks the shoreline, absorbing all the logged wood, mined stone, and the 500 freshly filled water bamboo tubes into his spatial inventory. Resting his weary back against the rough bark of an ancient tree, he dines quietly on his compressed biscuits and cool water, watching his satisfied ants gradually carry the remaining 26 intact insect fish back to his feet for long-term storage. Finally, as the eerie twilight settles over the apocalyptic landscape, he retrieves the glowing silver treasure chest from his backpack, holding his breath in suspense as he pops the lock, watching 2 blinding, magnificent orbs of concentrated light fall directly into his waiting palms. The raw, unyielding rewards of the apocalypse materialize within the young pioneer's trembling palms as the shimmering residual energy of the open silver chest fades, revealing a brilliant, gold-quality floating sun orb, an extraordinary cosmic sphere that automatically leaches latent energy directly from the atmosphere to illuminate a massive 3-mile radius without ever requiring a manual charge, rendering it the ultimate life-saving asset for subterranean adaptation and nocturnal operations alongside a potent, silver-quality vial of super insecticide capable of instantly paralyzing or killing any aggressive entity at or below the silver grade, while miraculously leaving their meat completely untainted and edible. Content with this massive haul, Chen Tian sweeps the items into his spatial storage with a practiced flick of his wrist, casting a cautious eye toward the rapidly bruising twilight as he commands his loyal insect battalion to begin methodically felling the surrounding timber while the fading daylight still permits. Never one to waste a single second of structural momentum, the analytical leader simultaneously accesses the global trading channel, aggressively liquidating 60 pieces of wood and 170 heavy river stones from his stockpile to acquire an astounding 157 empty water containers from the desperate, resource-starved survivor network. Suddenly, 3 thunderous, splintering cracks reverberate through the damp air, drawing his sharp gaze around to witness 3 massive, ancient trees crashing heavily onto the forest floor. Blinking in mild disbelief at the staggering efficiency of his workforce, he notes how quickly they finished, prompting the gentle yet maternal queen ant, Ying, to release a proud, telepathic giggle into his mind, telling her master that such labor is mere child's play before urging him to quickly harvest the timber. With a sweeping wave of his hand, Chen Tian seals the fallen logs into his inventory and distributes the newly traded containers to his ravenous swarm, watching the 13 ants plunge into an intense, hyper-coordinated water-filling operation that continues relentlessly until every single vessel is filled to the brim. By the time the task is complete, a suffocating, pitch-black night has fully claimed the wilderness, prompting the young man to activate the floating sun orb. As the artifact ascends into the canopy, it unleashes a blinding, celestial radiance that instantly transforms the pitch-black woods into broad daylight across a 3-mile expanse. Keeping their momentum high under this artificial sun, the small army presses forward on a non-stop march back toward their sanctuary. But the rhythmic chittering of the swarm abruptly halts when a pair of glowing, predatory green eyes ignites within the tangled undergrowth. Freezing mid-stride, Chen Tian's fingers tighten around the handle of his lethal insecticide, while his disciplined ants instantly construct a defensive wall around his body, their mandibles clicking as their master baits his breath and whispers a low command to keep moving forward without engaging. They manage to navigate the immediate perimeter safely, but the suffocating tension spikes to a fever pitch when a grotesque, humanoid silhouette suddenly materializes upon a high, distant branch, its hollow gaze locking directly onto the vulnerable human. Recognizing the immediate, lethal danger, Chen Tian grits his teeth and forces his legs to quicken their pace, silently warning himself not to look back at the ghost monkey insect, a terrifying, nocturnal assassin that engages in relentless fights to the death but harbor a deep, biological hatred for sunlight. Bursting through the final wall of thick briars, the young pioneer finally breaches the threshold of the cave entrance, releasing a heavy, ragged sigh of relief just as he looks back to see the frustrated stalker lingering on a branch a mere 10 meters away, completely barred from entry by the shelter's mystical territory ward. The sinister entity can only glare resentfully into the blinding light of the cave before its form eerily dissolves into the shadows, entirely unnoticed by Chen Tian, whose attention has already been completely hijacked by the miraculous transformation occurring within his indoor agricultural patch. Observing that the sweet potatoes in the planter box have reached a state of explosive maturity, he draws his bronze large broadsword and begins swinging it wildly, slicing away the dense, overgrown vines with clean, satisfying strokes. After neatly packing the severed vines into his spatial inventory, he digs his fingers into the loosened, hyper-enriched soil, unearthing plump, nutrient-dense, sweet potatoes one after another until a massive haul of 56 tubers fills his backpack, providing him with a profound sense of security knowing he can now comfortably endure a long-term siege without ever setting foot outside. Refusing to leave the soil barren, he immediately replants 2 fresh sweet potato vines alongside 2 precious, silver-grade watermelon seeds, drenching the earth with fresh river water and a few drops of his potent growth accelerator before leading his insect companions down into the deep underground chambers of the nest. Stepping into his private bedroom, a sudden, crisp blast of cool subterranean air hits his face, causing the weary college student to marvel at the natural, ancient air conditioning built into the earth. Yet, before he can fully relax, an instinctual biological shift calls him to the queen's chamber, where he finds Ying lying heavily upon the earth, her massive abdomen visibly swollen and pulsing as 4 watchful soldier ants stand guard around her. Suddenly, her torso contracts with a sharp, violent spasm, expelling a pristine, pure white ant egg that is instantly snatched up by a waiting worker ant, which sprints toward the incubation room in a seamless, fluid motion while a second worker immediately takes its place to catch the next delivery. Watching this hypnotic, clockwork assembly line from his doorway with profound curiosity, Chen Tian walks deeper into the chamber, mesmerized as the maternal queen deposits a new egg every few seconds into the waiting arms of her hyper-efficient children. When the exhausting labor finally comes to a close, the final egg is safely whisked away, leaving Ying collapsed weakly upon the cavern floor. Chen Tian steps forward with deep empathy, laying several fresh insect fish before her to replenish her depleted vitality while softly instructing her to rest while he checks on the nursery. Inside the humid incubation room, he unseals his growth accelerator and meticulously drips the golden elixir onto the freshly laid batch, watching the fluid dissolve into the pristine shells until they tremble violently. A chorus of sharp, crisp fractures echoes through the room, and 20 fully formed, dark-chitined adult ants rise to their feet. Laughing heartily at the rapid expansion of his empire, Chen Tian nods in absolute satisfaction and commands the newborn legion to follow him back to the royal chamber to pay homage to their mother. Presenting the expanded swarm to the resting queen, he notes that with their numbers growing so rapidly, they must begin expanding the subterranean nest to include dedicated rest sectors for both worker and soldier ants alongside structured security patrols. Ying clicks her mandibles thoughtfully, agreeing with her master's strategic vision, before noting that since he seemed less than impressed by the limitations of the surface planter box, they should use their new workforce to excavate a massive underground farm, utilizing the eternal light of the floating sun orb to bypass the need for surface sunlight. Pleased with the brilliant suggestion, Chen Tian instructs his queen to rouse him early the following morning before collapsing into his bed for a night of deep, restorative sleep. The next dawn breaks crisp and early, and a refreshed Chen Tian marches into the queen's chamber to find his entire insect swarm still piled together in a deep, peaceful slumber. A wicked, playful smirk curls onto his lips as he bellows for the little rascals to wake up because the sun is burning their collective butts, causing the entire swarm to jolt awake in a frantic flurry of clicking mandibles and rustling legs. Ying, thoroughly speechless at her master's childish antics, releases a telepathic huff, questioning if he truly feels no shame in actively scaring innocent ants, prompting Chen Tian to roll his eyes good-naturedly as he darts out of the cave, shouting back that they need to exploit the morning cool to gather critical supplies. At the entrance, the queen grumbles softly but maintains her absolute loyalty as she leads the chittering vanguard out into the light, ready for the heavy duties of the day. Taking command of the situation, Chen Tian strategically divides the expanded swarm into 6 specialized reconnaissance groups, scattering them into the surrounding wilderness to scour the terrain for hidden anomalies and secret realms. Not 30 minutes into the search, a frantic worker ant scurries back to the queen, communicating via rapid antennal strikes that it has discovered the intact carcass of a rare, bronze-grade mantis deep in the woods. Before they can even pivot toward the prize, a second scout rushes into the clearing with even greater urgency, looking at the approaching insect with a gaze full of intense, breathless anticipation. Chen Tian asks if they have found a true anomaly. Ying responds that they will only know for certain once they lay eyes upon it, prompting her master to order the guide to lead the way, while telepathically commanding the nearby squads to haul the bronze mantis carcass back to the nest repository. Guided by the swift soldier ant, they cut through the dense foliage until they stand before a majestic, ancient portal of light framed by 2 towering stone pillars. Chen Tian's eyes light up with raw excitement as he steps into the shimmering energy field, triggering a glowing system notification that identifies the structure as a secret realm stone gate, a rare, random phenomenon appearing only between the dawn hours of 6 a.m. and 7 a.m. that evaluates a survivor's global strength against all peers to grant monumental rewards based on tiers ranging from S down to F. Learning that this volatile gateway will completely vanish from existence in 7 days, the young pioneer feels a massive surge of adrenaline, choosing to initiate the trial without a single moment of hesitation. A blinding column of pure white light instantly envelops his body, and after one agonizing, breathless minute of calculation, the ancient stone pillars flash with his official evaluation, revealing an astounding S-grade ranking at rank 119 globally. Instantly, a bizarre, intricately carved mechanical lottery interface materializes from the ether, offering him 2 S-grade prize draws with a guaranteed diamond tier reward drop. Holding his breath, Chen Tian slams the confirmation mechanism, causing the celestial slot machine to spin in a wild, dizzying blur of cosmic colors. Just as the mounting tension threatens to drive him to madness, a solitary, blinding orb of concentrated energy pops out of the mechanism, and as he reaches out to greedily seize it, the light dissolves to reveal a mysterious, thorny green vine slowly twisting and materializing across his open palm. Within the shimmering, mystical atmosphere of the secret realm, the first brilliant prize orb dissolves to reveal the intricate blueprint of the fire thorns, a formidable, normal mid-stage flora entity with entirely unknown potential that continuously grows by ravenously devouring raw sunlight energy. Serving as an elite baseline asset for guarding exposed homesteads and nursery yards, this incredible botanical defense mechanism possesses the passive ability to maintain a localized climate of exactly 25 degrees Celsius once it matures to a certain scale, while perfectly masking its presence as an ordinary harmless vine until active danger erupts. True to its nature as the ultimate high-temperature killer, its cellular development accelerates exponentially the hotter its environment becomes, requiring only a single drop of the host's blood to bind, awaken, and permanently cement its absolute loyalty. Before Chen Tian can even process the monumental utility of this defensive prize, the second glowing orb suddenly shoots across the stone chamber, embedding itself directly into his glabella to initiate a soul-binding mental fusion with a diamond-quality cognitive system known as the Heavenly Eye. As the artifact integrates with his consciousness, a microscopic, nearly imperceptible pinhole eye manifests between his eyebrows, instantly endowing him with 2 profound, game-changing passive abilities: the power to fluidly translate and interpret the vocalizations and complex body language of all sentient races, and a hyper-analytical identification grid that automatically maps the intrinsic pros, cons, and fatal flaws of any scrutinized item directly into his brain. This unparalleled omniscience, however, exacts a heavy toll, as the initial neural synchronization triggers an agonizing, excruciating psychological strain that can fracture a weak mind into split personalities, while successive daily uses of the identification matrix rapidly sap the host's physical vitality and induce severe drowsiness. Possessing 2 top-tier assets, the young university student turns away from the collapsing portal with a burst of maniacal, echoing laughter, confidently commanding his premier queen ant, Ying, and the chittering swarm that there is no point lingering in the clearing, and that they must head back immediately. Upon reaching the jagged maw of the level 2 ant nest, Chen Tian extracts a single crimson bead of blood and squeezes it onto the thorny vine, watching the dry fibers greedily absorb the life force until a profound, instinctual bloodline connection locks into place. He selects a prime patch of soil near the entrance and plants the specimen, triggering a sudden growth spurt that transforms the tiny sprout into a robust, 1-meter-tall guardian bristling with sharp barbs. Feeling the dense energy pulsating from the flora, Chen Tian realizes that the intense latent heat has already forced the fire thorns to break through into the early bronze grade. This sudden evolution prompts a soft, weakly muttered complaint from Ying, who notes with a hint of nanny-like exasperation that the plant has achieved bronze status upon planting while she remains stuck at late normal grade despite gorging on so many rich insect fish. Amused, Chen Tian questions if this is truly the definitive path to increasing one's tier, only for the queen to click her mandibles and ask if her master truly hasn't consumed a single fish himself, forcing him to confess with mild embarrassment that he simply couldn't bear to eat their scarce food reserves. Ying telepathically lectures her silly master, explaining that while developmental paths differ between species, most organisms achieve ascension and dramatically extend their lifespans through the simple act of devouring pure nutrients. Accepting that if he cannot cultivate like an immortal, he will simply have to eat his way to the top, Chen Tian decides to lead the group down to the nearby stream to exploit the relative morning cool, leaving a disciplined detachment of 12 ants to guard the home territory, while the remaining vanguard marches toward the water. Upon arriving, they find the stream bed nearly dried to a husk under the oppressive summer sky, exposing dozens of gasping, aquatic organisms struggling in the shallow mud. Recognizing an easy harvest, Chen Tian orders his workers to divide into 2 specialized teams, one to log the surrounding timber, and the other to mine heavy stones while they work their way upstream and downstream. Grabbing a simple net, he begins scooping up the trapped insect fish with fluid efficiency, rapidly clearing the local section of all marine life, before checking his interface to find it is already 10 in the morning, with ambient temperatures skyrocketing toward a brutal 40 degrees Celsius. Gritting his teeth against the oppressive heatwave, he braves the blinding glare to press further downstream, pulling in mass quantities of fish, while completely oblivious to the fact that 3 loyal worker ants are quietly trailing his footsteps as a stealth security detail. Turning past a sharp S-curve in the parched riverbed, he freezes instantly as his eyes lock onto a terrifying sight, a calf-sized mature scorpion leading a brood of 5 aggressive young scorpions through the stones. A suffocating silence descends over the riverbed as the 2 opposing forces quietly stare each other down, but after a tense, breathless interlude, the apex predator determines that the fragile human poses absolutely no immediate threat and casually buries its head back into the mud to resume fishing. Let out a long, ragged breath of relief, Chen Tian cautiously steps backward, retreating from the danger zone until he reunites with Ying and the rest of the swarm, who are already lying motionless under the dense shade of the canopy to prevent their carapaces from cracking. Ying urgently signals her master, stating that they must retreat to the subterranean nest immediately before the severe heat triggers catastrophic consequences for the colony. Agreeing with her assessment, Chen Tian commands the swarm to head back first while he gathers the heavy resource piles scattered along the banks. Sprinting madly through the shimmering heat waves toward the cave, his sharp eyes catch the unmistakable silhouette of a weathered wooden treasure chest nestled beneath a massive tree. Gritting his teeth against the exhaustion, racking his limbs, he veers off course, snatches the chest up in one fluid motion, and resumes his desperate dash toward the safety of the base. Bursting through the cave entrance, he collapses onto the stone floor, completely drenched in sweat, as the blazing sun reaches its zenith outside. Above him, the freshly planted vine stretches its broad, heat-absorbent leaves to create a perfect, refreshing canopy over his head. Smiling warmly at the gesture, he strokes the green bark and declares that it shall henceforth be named Huoling. To his absolute shock, the thorny vine sways rhythmically and whispers a soft, childlike thank you directly into his mind, prompting the startled pioneer to gasp and demand it speak again. Though the infant entity merely wiggles happily without repeating the words, Chen Tian smiles, commanding Huoling to weave its tendrils across the cave entrance to mask their location from wandering predators. Before asking it to wiggle twice if it has successfully broken through to the silver grade, the plant instantly wiggles twice and goes completely still, satisfying its master, who bids it rest during the hottest hours of the day before leading the panting swarm deeper into the subterranean hive. Deep inside the tunnels, his gaze falls upon the massive, mantis-like carcass brought in earlier by his scouts, prompting him to ponder aloud what manner of apex beast would expend so much lethal energy to hunt down such a prize only to leave it uneaten. Ying replies seriously that no insect would willingly waste such high-tier meat, suggesting that the victor was likely heavily injured during the clash and fled to nurse its wounds, especially since her senses confirmed the carcass belonged to a powerful silver-grade entity when alive. Nodding grimly, Chen Tian notes that a silver-grade insect dying right on their doorstep is an ominous sign that demands extreme vigilance in the coming days. Suddenly, a series of crisp, rhythmic cracking sounds echoes from the darkness. Stowing the heavy mantis corpse into his spatial inventory, he sprints directly toward the humid incubation room. In the corner of the chamber, 10 freshly hatched, downy chicks are emerging from their shells, opening their beaks to chirp frantically at their designated parent. Smiling at his new livestock, Chen Tian extracts several fresh insect fish, feeding them until they are thoroughly hydrated and full. The satisfied chicks quickly ingest their own nutrient-rich eggshells and huddle together in a peaceful pile as their master departs to inspect the newly excavated sectors of the hive. Ying proudly guides him through the subterranean expansions, gesturing to a massive, hyper-organized planting zone and a sprawling assembly point designed for the worker ants to cultivate fungi. She details the layout with maternal precision, pointing out a dedicated sector for growing her master's personal crops, a fermentation chamber where workers can chew and process wild vegetation, a spacious communal barracks for the workforce to rest, and a specialized pen for raising the 10 newly hatched blood-chi chicks. While praising her brilliant architecture, Chen Tian notes that they still require a significantly larger defensive barracks to house their combat units and laborers as the colony grows. To fuel their next evolutionary leap, he manifests the massive mantis carcass on the floor, causing the entire swarm's eyes to lock hungrily onto the prize as his heavenly eye interface flashes with a peak silver-grade notification, identifying the beast as a scythe feather mantis, a carnivorous, top-tier insect assassin renowned for its peerless agility and razor-sharp wings. Turning to his queen, Chen Tian commands her to carefully dismantle the lethal specimen, instructing her to detach the twin predatory scythes and the pristine feathers from its wings for weapon crafting. As Ying's mandibles move with practiced, surgical precision to dissect the beast, the young pioneer gathers a prime cut of the high-tier meat and retreats to the cool sanctuary of his bedroom to plan his ultimate conquest of the insect world. Deep within the subterranean sanctuary, beside the crude stone stove, a flickering fire casts long, dancing shadows across the cavern walls as Chen Tian, the 21-year-old former university student turned Lord of Evolution, adds thick pieces of firewood to the crackling flames before carefully positioning a plump, newly harvested sweet potato and a rich, substantial portion of peak silver-grade scythe feather mantis meat near the intense heat to roast. After a lengthy, agonizing wait filled with the mouth-watering aroma of sizzling game, the food is finally cooked to a perfect, charred turn, prompting the ravenous human survivor to eagerly seize the roasted mantis meat and wolf it down with desperate speed. The moment the last morsel is swallowed, a violent, boiling current of pure cosmic energy surges through his entire anatomy, expanding outward into every cell with an explosive force that leaves him gritting his teeth in sheer agony, as his fragile mortal frame threatens to burst apart from the overwhelming influx of silver-grade nutrients. For 30 suffocating minutes, he endures the torturous metabolic expansion until he finally collapses onto the hard earth like a helpless, melting puddle of mud, his clothes completely drenched in a thick layer of sweat as he forces his aching, hyper-enriched muscles to sit upright. Drawing a heavy, ragged breath, Chen Tian reflects that if he truly wishes to ascend the ranks of this brutal apocalypse, he must consistently consume high-quality, high-tier meat to supply his evolutionary framework with the baseline sustenance required for growth, but rather than resting, he immediately steels his resolve and initiates the soul-binding fusion with his newly acquired diamond-quality heavenly eye. Instantly, thousands of microscopic, imperceptible neural fibers and bioelectrical nerve endings violently sprout beneath his skin, aggressively boring their way through his skull to establish a permanent connection with the latent cognitive artifact situated directly between his eyebrows. The exact millisecond the organic nerves fuse with the diamond matrix, an indescribable, cataclysmic tidal wave of pure psychological agony crashes over his consciousness, shattering his vision into a chaotic explosion of surreal, bizarre illusions and fractured cosmic realities that persist for an untrackable eternity. When the final, excruciating wave of neurological torment recedes, a weak, triumphant smile plays across his lips as he mutters that he has succeeded, before his eyes instantly roll back into his head and he passes out cold on the cavern floor. When consciousness slowly returns to him, the deep, oppressive darkness of night has fully claimed the upper world, and Chen Tian opens his heavy eyelids to find his fiercely loyal, protective queen ant, Ying, alongside the towering, thorny form of his sentinel plant, Ling, standing close guard over his vulnerable form. The gentle, maternal queen immediately floods his mind with an anxious telepathic cry, exclaiming that her master is finally awake and that he had scared her half to death, while simultaneously, a second, distinctly crisp, childlike voice rings out with innocent concern, demanding to know why their beloved master had ended up in such a pathetic, broken state. Caught off guard by the dual sensory input, Chen Tian jounces upright and abruptly shouts into the dim light, demanding to know who else is speaking in his mind. Ying's telepathic presence ripples with immediate confusion and worry as she snaps back, asking what nonsense he is talking about since she is the only one speaking, before anxiously wondering aloud if his brain had been permanently damaged by the fusion. Snapping back that her brain is the one with a terminal problem, Chen Tian bypasses his giant lifebound insect and turns his gaze directly toward the pulsing green vines of the fire thorns, asking the plant outright if it was the entity responsible for the childlike voice. Ying clicks her heavy mandibles in absolute shock and utter disbelief, telepathically pointing out that Ling is a stationary botanical lifeform and questioning how a mere plant could ever possess the capacity to speak. Yet, contrasted against the queen ant's vocal skepticism, the infant tree entity is enveloped in absolute, earth-shattering amazement, its primitive consciousness thinking frantically to itself, that it should be completely impossible for its human master to actively decipher its silent, internal thoughts. Seizing the opportunity to verify his new cognitive gifts, Chen Tian activates the hyper-analytical identification function of the Heavenly Eye to read Huo Ling's updated profile, and a surge of profound shock strikes his heart. From the exact moment he first awakened and planted the fire thorns, less than a single calendar day has elapsed, yet its evolutionary strength has violently skyrocketed from a baseline normal grade to the absolute peak of the silver grade, rendering a breakthrough into the coveted gold tier a mere matter of time. Observing the sentinel vine lapse into a stunned, silent paralysis, Chen Tian lets out a heavy, weary sigh, feigning a gentle shrug as he mutters to the room that he must have simply misheard the voices due to his exhaustion, reassuring them that he is perfectly fine and merely requires a few days of quiet rest. Ying, however, is clearly displeased by his evasive demeanor and rustles her massive tarsi against the stone, telepathically demanding that he answer her question regarding his sudden mental erraticism, forcing the young pioneer to candidly explain the excruciating, mind-altering architecture of his diamond-quality Heavenly Eye fusion. The maternal queen listens in rapt fascination, her mind reeling as she clarifies if this Heavenly Eye truly means her master can now actively perceive and translate the precise expressions, desires, and underlying body language of absolutely any living creature in the wilderness. Confirming that it acts as a flawless, universal linguistic translator, Chen Tian offers a cheerful nod, which prompts the hidden consciousness of the fire thorns to pipe up once more, its telepathic voice ringing with pure glee as it asks if its master can truly hear its voice now. Giving a definitive affirmative, Chen Tian watches with mild amusement as Ying looks on in utter exasperation, watching her human master converse with thin air like a raving lunatic before she unhappily complains that she cannot hear a single thread of Huo Ling's dialogue. Chen Tian rolls his eyes good-naturedly, explaining that such a sensory disconnect is perfectly natural given that Huo Ling is an advanced plant and she is a terrestrial insect, noting that it would be inherently bizarre if their distinct evolutionary phyla could seamlessly comprehend one another's natural frequencies without an artificial bridge. Hearing this, the childlike consciousness of the plant eagerly requests its master to pass a message to Sister Ying, promising that the very moment its biological strength breaks through into the legendary epic tier, it will naturally unlock the capacity to broadcast its thoughts across all racial barriers and communicate with her normally. Raising a curious eyebrow at the plant's rapid cognitive development, Chen Tian relays the promise to his lifebound queen, before stretching his aching limbs and declaring that if there are no further emergencies, he desires a period of absolute quiet to allow his nervous system to heal. Nodding understandingly, the dutiful queen advises her master to obtain some deep, restorative rest while she departs the bedroom to actively supervise the tireless resource-gathering operations of her specialized worker and soldier ant subclasses. Yet, the requested peace is shattered just a few breaths later when Huo Ling's localized aura suddenly spikes with a violent, predatory heat, its childlike voice hardening into a sharp panic as it alerts its master to the sudden arrival of an active intruder. Promising to return in a heartbeat, the peak silver-grade plant violently uproots its main anchor and burrows straight down into the subterranean bedrock, disappearing into the earth with terrifying speed. Out on the darkened surface, a massive, pitch-black silhouette crouches maliciously upon a thick tree branch, its hollow, glowing green eyes glaring viciously down at the mouth of the cave. It is the exact same ghost monkey insect from the previous night, its agile body now covered in an array of jagged, oozing lacerations sustained during its brutal, unseen skirmish with the deceased scythe feather mantis. Completely oblivious to the subsurface danger, the nocturnal assassin focuses entirely on the cave entrance, failing to realize that Huo Ling has already masterfully manipulated its root system to travel through the stone veins, emerging silently directly into the dense foliage right behind its exposed back. Operating with a tactical brilliance that belies its childish personality, Huo Ling deliberately commands a few auxiliary, non-barbed vines to scrape heavily along the forest floor, creating a loud, distinct rustling sound designed to disorient the hunter's senses. The trap works flawlessly as the hypervigilant ghost monkey insect alertly snaps its head downward to scan the forest floor for the source of the noise, completely exposing its unprotected spine and blind spots to the canopy above. Seizing the absolute perfect millisecond, Huo Ling unleashes its ultimate combat maneuver, driving a massive, barbed vine through the air at an astonishing, bullet-like velocity directly toward the predator's back. The sharp-sensed ghost monkey insect detects the sudden displacement of air at the final moment, abruptly twisting its torso to leap toward an adjacent tree trunk. But in that breathless split second, a dense, preternatural forest of wooden spikes erupts from every single coordinate of the compass. In a flash of kinetic violence, the shoots seamlessly interlock to form a flawless, inescapable thorn prison cage that traps the screaming assassin directly in the center of the clearing. Realizing it has been completely outmaneuvered, the frenzied monster swings its razor-sharp claws in a mad, desperate attempt to tear the living timber apart, but the gold potential wood refuses to buckle. Instead, the walls responds with a lethal, synchronized internal volley as countless secondary vines pierce directly through its vitals from every conceivable angle. With a sickening wet crunch, the thorn cage violently constricts inward, instantly severing the creature's agonizing shrieks as copious amounts of foul, dark green life fluid ooze out of the wooden press to drip heavily onto the parched earth below. Meanwhile, back inside the tunnels, Chen Tian drags his aching, recovering body up the underground shaft to the cave entrance, stepping out into the cool night air just in time to toss his floating sun orb high into the canopy. The golden artifact descends gracefully, instantly unleashing a brilliant, 3-mile dome of celestial light that transforms the terrifying midnight wilderness into broad, reassuring daylight. The moment Huo Ling basks in the artificial solar energy, its consciousness erupts with pure, childlike excitement as it rushes back to its master's side, its vines swaying longingly as it questions why such a magnificent treasure hadn't been deployed earlier, noting that such light would allow its cells to absorb solar energy and grow exponentially stronger even in the dead of night. Chuckling softly, Chen Tian gently denies the request, explaining that the cosmic orb is fundamentally critical for the long-term success of their planned underground fungal and sweet potato farms, before shakily pointing his finger toward the bloody, tightly sealed wooden mass in the clearing to inquire if the slain intruder is contained within. Receiving a proud confirmation, he commands the plant to bring the prize forward for inspection, prompting Huo Ling to softly caution its master that the mangled, creepy state of the carcass might frighten his human sensibilities. Telling the plant to cut the useless chatter and hurry up, Chen Tian watches as the vine tendrils smoothly slide the heavy cage across the dirt, uncoiling the wooden bars to reveal the utterly destroyed, perforated corpse of the ghost monkey insect. The young pioneer gasps in genuine horror at the sheer lethality of the wounds, silently thanking the heavens that his sentinel plant executed the ambush perfectly, knowing that if the dark assassin had successfully breached their perimeter, both he and the resting Ying would have been turned into dead meat. Suddenly, a brilliant, crimson gemstone manifests from the dissolving biological code of the monster's chest cavity. Recognizing the rare drop, Huo Ling masterfully wraps a small vine around the crystal and presents it to its master's waiting hand. The moment Chen Tian's fingers make contact with the warm stone, the diamond-quality heavenly eye automatically maps the item's properties, identifying it as a rare blood core. The absolute concentrated crystallization of an insect's core life essence that carries an incredibly small drop rate upon a kill, possessing the monumental capacity to permanently skyrocket a consumer's physical strength and muscular physique. Recognizing the immense loyalty of his botanical defender, Chen Tian selflessly hands the crimson gem back to the vine, stating that he is gifting the core to it in the hopes that absorbing its latent essence will finally push its power structure over the threshold into the true gold tier. Overwhelmed with profound, wordless gratitude, Huo Ling greedily absorbs the blood core directly into its primary vascular network on the spot, triggering a sudden, cataclysmic eruption of thermal energy that causes its aura to explode outward in a visible wave of golden force. Peering through the microscopic pinhole between his eyebrows, Chen Tian smiles triumphantly as the heavenly eye confirms that the Fire Thorns has officially achieved the rank of early gold grade, and as he looks out into the artificial daylight of the sun orb, he notes with a profound sense of awe that every single towering tree within their 10-meter territory has now been completely enveloped and fortified by a dense, impenetrable network of his guardian's razor-sharp, heat-radiating vines, securing their absolute dominance over the apocalyptic wilderness. Perplexed by the visual transformation of the surrounding landscape, the young human protagonist, Chen Tian, a 21-year-old former university student who now holds the legendary titles of Ant King Summoner and Lord of Evolution, questions his lifebound plant sentinel, asking why it has painstakingly wrapped its barbed tendrils around every single tree in the vicinity. Operating with a fiercely territorial and childlike mentality, the early gold-grade Fire Thorns, whom its master affectionately named Huo Ling, replies via their freshly unlocked mental link that these towering trees are greedily stealing its precious sunlight energy, explaining that it intends to execute a complete forest strangulation to choke them to death. A spark of tactical inspiration ignites in Chen Tian's eyes upon hearing this, and he counters by asking why it doesn't simply snap them down entirely, noting with pragmatic foresight that their growing colony currently requires a massive stockpile of wood for structural reinforcement. Delighted to receive direct praise from its master, the living fortress enthusiastically complies, boasting that he should watch closely as it systematically topples every single tree within a wide 30-meter radius. Within the next heartbeat, a violent tremor ripples through the forest floor as countless thick, fibrous vines frantically burrow into the subterranean bedrock, wrapping around the trees' root systems and forcefully ripping them from the earth until massive timber trunks come crashing down one after another in a thunderous cascade of dust and debris. Chen Tian stares at the absolute devastation in a dumbfounded stupor, his jaw dropped at the raw kinetic power of his pet, just as the chaotic commotion draws the anxious ant vanguard rushing up to the surface. Emerging at the cavern mouth, the first contracted beast and core pet queen, Ying, whose nurturing, nanny-like nature always makes her worry for her master, clicks her mandibles in deep confusion, telepathically demanding to know what catastrophic event has just unfolded, assuring her with a casual wave that nothing is wrong, and that Huo Ling was merely performing some aggressive logging. Chen Tian points toward the mangled remains of the apex predator from the previous evening, telling the swarm that they are free to devour the ghost monkey insect corpse. While the ravenous ant swarm quickly falls upon the carcass, dissecting it with surgical precision to harvest its biological nutrients. Ling continues its massive, earth-shaking, clear-cutting operation in the background. Seizing this moment of relative safety, Chen Tian accesses his dimensional interface and lists 52 old sweet potato vines within the global trading area, pricing each organic cutting at a baseline fee of either 30 wood or 30 stone. Within a matter of mere minutes, a single wealthy buyer eagerly purchases the entire listing in bulk, instantly netting the pioneer a substantial bounty of 900 wood and 660 stone. Capitalizing on this sudden influx of raw materials, he immediately initiates a structural upgrade for his level 2 ant nest, watching the glowing holographic progress bar fill with immense satisfaction until Ling breaks his concentration with a sharp, excited shout. Eagerly directing his attention toward a buried prize, it has transitioned to unearthing. A thick vine curls gently around a weathered container, lifting it high into the air and delivering it right before the young master's feet. Overjoyed by his pet's incredible luck, Chen Tian stores the newly acquired chest away, patting the plant's green bark while declaring that Ling is absolutely amazing and urging it to keep clearing the perimeter. 3 hours blend into a blur of intense labor, and just as the powerful gold-grade vine positions its barbs to crush the final standing giant of the old forest, Chen Tian notices something unique about its foliage and shouts a commanding halt. Realizing it is a rare fruit tree and asking if the plant can delicately excavate the specimen along with its entire root ball and intact soil, Ling pauses its destructive momentum, responding with a cheerful affirmation before immediately digging deep into the earth to lift the intact botanical specimen safely into the air, proudly presenting it to its master, while asking what manner of tree they have discovered. Nodding in deep appreciation, Chen Tian focuses his gaze and activates his diamond-quality special ability, the Heavenly Eye, causing a microscopic pinhole eye to dilate between his eyebrows as an advanced, mental-type identification grid maps the plant's exact biological code. The interface identifies the specimen as a gold-quality golden scholar tree, detailing an exquisite description where its entire organism is recognized as a divine, life-saving medicine. Its leaves can be steeped in water to clear the human mind and drastically enhance long-term critical thinking and comprehension. Its mature fruits possess the supernatural potency to neutralize most lethal poisons and cure debilitating illnesses, while its fragrant roots can be processed to permanently enhance a survivor's physical physique. Shouting with unbridled excitement that they have unearthed a crucial, life-saving treasure, Chen Tian stows the raw timber into his spatial inventory, taking a moment to calculate his monumental afternoon harvest, which now boasts 1,000 pieces of processed wood, 2 common or normal treasure chests, a silver treasure chest, a prized gold treasure chest, and countless loose branches and weeds. Overjoyed by this sudden wealth, he commands his core inner circle to head back down to the cave entrance so they can plant the divine medicinal tree in a protected zone. Once inside the shaded threshold, Chen Tian lines up all 4 treasure chests on the dirt floor and opens them simultaneously, creating a blinding flash as 5 radiant prize orbs manifest in the dim light. Reaching for the standard rewards first, he shatters the normal orbs to materialize 5 fresh loaves of bread and a complete, functional tea set, before moving on to the silver prize orb, which bursts to yield a pristine bottle of silver-quality purification potion. His heavenly eye automatically superimposes the item's technical description, noting that while it should never be mistaken for a standard healing elixir, due to its low tier, only being capable of purging minor negative status effects, it remains a valuable asset, designed to cleanse the human body and make it glow with pristine health. Declaring it to be the exact remedy his exhausted frame requires, Chen Tian pops the cork and chugs the fluid down in a single gulp, sighing in relief as the cool liquid instantly dissolves the lingering lactic acid and deep muscle soreness caused by his agonizing neural fusion from the day before. Turning his attention to the final, radiant golden orbs, he shatters them to discover 2 highly valuable, platinum-quality item fusion scrolls, capable of merging 2 or 3 separate items or plants into a single entity, with a distinct probability of elevating the final product by a full-quality tier, alongside 2 platinum-grade ally teleportation scrolls, which allow 2 survivors to form a binding faction, alliance, and manifest linked teleportation arrays in their respective bases that cannot be used for hostile infiltration without explicit host permission. Staring intently at the glowing fusion scrolls in his palm before shifting his gaze to the golden scholar tree and his existing water resource, a bold, reckless, evolutionary hypothesis takes root in his mind, prompting him to invoke his unique Bloodline Evolution talent to fuse the cool spring pool directly with the gold-quality medicinal tree. A blinding, magnificent golden luminescence erupts within the grotto, completely enveloping the 2 assets in a swirling vortex of high-density energy until the light fades to reveal a single integrated structure. Evaluating the results through his heavenly eye, Chen Tian discovers that the fusion successfully triggered a tier elevation, upgrading the resource to a breathtaking platinum-grade sanctuary. Stepping forward, he scoops a handful of the sparkling water and swallows it, shuddering as a cool, profoundly potent medicinal energy washes over his internal organs, providing an indescribably comfortable sensation of vitality. Recognizing that this spirit spring water represents a strategic, monopolistic resource that can be easily packaged and used to dominate the global economy, He turns back to his guardian vine, inquiring about its maximum territory radius so he can begin clearing land for agricultural expansion. Ling sways its stalks, reporting that it can currently influence and protect about 100 square meters of terrain, prompting its master to command it to till that exact plot of soil before midnight, dividing the earth into 4 perfectly organized agricultural plots. In an instant, countless thorny vines burst from the bedrock like giant, writhing snakes, violently churning and aerating the dirt with mechanical precision. The following morning, the golden rays of dawn filter into the master bedroom, waking the young university student from a deep, dreamless sleep as he stretches his limbs and walks into the bustling queen's chamber. Sensing his movement, the loyal, maternal queen, Ying, turns her massive compound eyes toward him, her telepathic voice ringing with curiosity as she asks where her master is heading so early in the day. Chen Tian replies that he is heading up to the surface to begin planting their sweet potato crops, instructing her to send a disciplined detachment of specialized worker ants to assist with the manual labor shortly. Bidding her master to take care of himself, the queen watches him ascend the stone shafts until he steps out onto the surface, where he is instantly struck by the suffocating, oppressive heat radiating from a merciless sky. Shielding his eyes against the blinding glare, Chen Tian mutters that the ambient temperature is on track to shatter a brutal 60 degrees Celsius today, prompting him to quickly pull up his interface to spend 1,000 wood to acquire a functional wooden bottle blueprint and an earthen water vat blueprint. Deciding he needs an extra pair of hands, he calls out into the brush, summoning Ling down from its high canopy perch, where it was lazily enjoying a scorching sunbath. The plant reluctantly slithers over, its childlike voice carrying a hint of mild annoyance as it asks what its master requires, only for Chen Tian to point toward a massive pile of loose, excavated soil and command it to compress the dirt into solid, dense balls. Within seconds, Ling expertly whips its heavy vines through the air, applying immense physical pressure to form a series of tightly packed earthen spheres, before asking if it is finally free to return to its sunbath. Dismissing the plant with a nod, Chen Tian retreats back into the cool, insulated depths of the ant nest, walking up to his crafting workbench to deposit his newly purchased schematics and queuing up a mass production order for 200 wooden bottles and 10 water vats, causing the table to emit a faint, rhythmic glow that projects a countdown of 10 minutes for the containers and 2 hours for the heavy vats. Utilizing this mandatory downtime, the Lord of Evolution browses the global trading channel, where his eyes immediately lock onto a highly rare pipe blueprint. After a moment of calculation, he initiates a private message with the anonymous seller, asking if the individual would be willing to lower their steep asking price in exchange for premium food items. The vendor replies with immediate hostility, stating that a price reduction is completely impossible because they already believe the blueprint is being sold at an absolute steal. Refusing to be extorted, Chen Tian cold-heartedly tells the trader to forget it and bids them goodbye, causing the panicked seller to quickly retract their stubborn stance, begging him to wait and offering to throw in a massive cubic meter of pure ice as a bonus if he completes the purchase. The moment his eyes register the word ice amidst a 60-degree heatwave, a sly, predatory smile creeps onto the protagonist's face, and he counters by offering to trade a platinum-grade healing potion, secretly intending to utilize his newly upgraded spirit spring water in exchange for 300 solid blocks of ice, plus the pipe blueprint. The desperate seller immediately agrees to the terms, eagerly finalizing the transaction while identifying himself as Zhao Qihao, a name that causes Chen Tian to freeze entirely in place as his mind races with disbelief, wondering if this trader could truly be his long-lost best friend from the university. Testing the waters, Chen Tian types out a message asking if it is truly his brother Qihao, to which the vendor replies with a defensive, sarcastic insult, demanding to know what kind of dog dares to take advantage of his identity on a public forum. Laughing aloud in the empty cavern, Chen Tian fires back with their old dormitory inside joke, identifying himself as the handsome stud of room 401, Chen Jiaozhang, before clarifying that it is indeed his true brother, Chen Tian. The interface explodes with emotional dialogue as Zhao Qihao curses loudly, jokingly telling Chen Tian to stop twisting the facts because he was always the older brother of the dorm, prompting Chen Tian to retort that Qihao should be the one calling him brother, especially since he possesses a definitive, legendary method for the two of them to physically reunite in the flesh. Stunned by the claim, Qihao urges him to hurry up, allowing Chen Tian to smugly tell his friend that he has had quite enough of his barking before initiating their alliance using one of his platinum ally teleportation scrolls. As soon as the system registers their mutual acceptance, a glowing, intricate teleportation array manifests in the quiet corner of Chen Tian's bedroom. Walking over to his platinum-grade spring, he fills a series of containers with the cool, life-giving water and steps directly into the center of the white light. A blinding flash of kinetic displacement forces him to close his eyes, and when he opens them again, the hot desert landscape has vanished, replaced by the cool, refreshing subterranean atmosphere of an ice cavern as a familiar silhouette walks eagerly toward him. Zhao Qihao greets his old friend with a massive, emotional grin, asking if Chen Tian missed him before, proudly gesturing to the beautiful, shimmering iceberg scenery that characterizes his unique base. Chen Tian nods happily, following his humorous and deeply loyal companion out of the tunnel system until the two survivors arrive at the banks of a small, frozen stream, where Chen Tian reaches into his dimensional inventory to shove a massive pile of essential survival supplies and premium spring water into Chihao's hands. Touched by the immense generosity, the reliable friend thanks his little brother, before curiously asking what manner of lifebound insect Chen Tian managed to contract during the initial apocalypse, proudly opening his own shirt to reveal a pristine, snow-white silkworm clinging to his chest. Activating his specialized heavenly eye, Chen Tian looks through the microscopic eye between his brows to scan the unique creature, watching as a comprehensive datasheet materializes to identify the beast as an ice mountain heavenly silkworm currently resting at the late bronze grade. The description reveals it to be a legendary Arctic organism that thrives in extreme sub-zero temperatures by devouring pure ice crystals, spinning a specialized silk laced with an incredibly lethal, undetectable cold poison that can assassinate enemies without leaving a single trace. Furthermore, the mystical silkworm grants its human master a permanent, passive resistance to both extreme cold and blistering heat while steadily enhancing their baseline physical physique, possessing a magnificent, hidden evolutionary path that will eventually allow it to ascend into a glorious, six-winged star ice butterfly once its power breaks through to the higher tiers of this dangerous new world. Flattered by Chen Tian's awe of the magnificent ice mountain heavenly silkworm, Zhao Qihao cracks up heartily, waving off the praise while eagerly prophesying that Chen Tian's own queen ant will one day command a terrifying, world-conquering army of millions, humorously offering to appoint his best friend as his personal grand marshal in the grand scheme of things. Standing atop the pulsing teleportation matrix within the icy cavern, Chen Tian bids a warm, fiercely loyal farewell to his comrade, telling Qihao to contact him the very second trouble arises rather than trying to shoulder the weight of this brutal apocalypse alone, before a brilliant flash of kinetic white light consumes the chamber and teleports the Lord of Evolution straight back into the humid safety of his private bedroom. Wasting no time, the industrious young pioneer strides over to his workbench to collect the completed batch of 200 wooden bottles, immediately marching down to the shimmering, platinum-grade spirit spring to meticulously submerge and fill the vessels with the life-giving, medicinal elixir before opening the global trading channel to list 90 premium bottles of spirit spring water. He structures the high-demand listing to aggressively swap the strategic resource for processed wood, heavy stone, exotic crop seeds, vital food reserves, and rare evolution-inducing blood cores. Stepping out into the oppressive surface air, Chen Tian is instantly greeted by the playful eruption of the early gold-grade fire thorns as Huo Ling pops its vibrant, barbed tendrils out from the churned earth, its childish, clingy voice chiming merrily into its master's mind with a mischievous declaration that it possesses both good news and bad news. Amused by the plant's theatrical suspense, Chen Tian commands it to drop the games and reveal both, prompting the lethal botanical guardian to proudly announce that its deep roots have successfully detected a massive vein of hidden groundwater, though its tone turns teasing as it adds the caveat that the precious moisture is locked, a daunting 50 meters beneath the solid bedrock. Unfazed by the tactical hurdle, Chen Tian smiles with absolute confidence, knowing that a 50-meter depth is a minor obstacle for his highly specialized, tireless workforce of worker ants, and he immediately begins tilling the freshly cleared land to plant his precious sweet potato vines, juicy watermelon seeds, and robust corn seeds into the nutrient-rich soil. As the blistering sun finally sinks beneath the western horizon, painting the sky in dramatic shades of bruised crimson and gold, Chen Tian instructs Huo Ling to guard the newly seeded agricultural plots with its life, warning it not to let the ambient heat roast the delicate sprouts, which draws a perfectly synchronized, fiercely loyal telepathic affirmation from both the childish plant sentinel and the protective queen ant, Ying. Retreating into the subterranean tunnels, the young master retrieves the massive blocks of pure ice traded from Qihao and strategically places them in the cavern's corners, casting a refreshing, frosty mist that plunges the oppressive internal temperature into an incredibly comfortable chill. With the hive properly cooled, he unloads a bountiful harvest of aquatic insect fish and water-filled bamboo tubes for his loyal swarm, prompting the nurturing Ying to happily declare that she will not hold back on the feast, while Chen Tian quietly slips away into his private bedroom to contentedly devour a roasted sweet potato before messaging Qihao to assist in filling their 10 newly crafted earth and water vats. Qihao swiftly agrees, urging Chen Tian to visit later that night to thoroughly dissect the hidden mechanics of the mystical secret realm, but the sheer physiological exhaustion of the day finally catches up to the Lord of Evolution, plunging him into a deep, restorative slumber. When Chen Tian finally blinks away the cobwebs of sleep, the deep darkness of evening has fully enveloped the world, and his communication interface is violently flashing with frantic, caps-lock broadsides from an increasingly panicked Zhao Qihao, whose latest message humorously threatens to erect a literal funeral memorial tablet if his friend doesn't reply within 5 minutes. Firing back a sarcastic retort that he was merely sleeping off his profound exhaustion, Chen Tian rolls his eyes and accepts Qihao's impending teleportation request, causing the bedroom array to illuminate the stone walls with a brilliant surge of spatial energy as the humorous, reliable friend struts into the chamber, immediately demanding to know the true nature of the anomalous secret realm. Chen Tian patiently breaks down the cinematic horrors and rules of the pocket dimension, prompting a wide-eyed, jaw-dropped reaction from Qihao as he learns that his brother won an evolving gold-grade sentinel plant and permanently fused his consciousness with a diamond-quality heavenly eye. A legendary prize, Qihao jealously equates to the mystical third eye of the deity Erlang Shen, before being told it is simply an advanced, hyper-analytical cognitive machine. Eager to witness these wonders firsthand, Qihao follows Chen Tian out into the cool night air, promptly materializing the water-filled earthen vats so that Chen Tian can mix in their precious growth accelerator chemical. Working in seamless harmony alongside the chittering queen ant and the enthusiastically swaying Huo Ling, the two friends rapidly irrigate the experimental plots just as the ink-black darkness of a true apocalyptic night claims the sky. Gathering back inside the insulated safety of the cavern mouth under the bright daylight mimicking radiance of the deployed sun orb, Chen Tian slices a crisp, perfectly ripened watermelon to share a celebratory feast with his inner circle. Munching on a slice, the analytical Qihao narrows his eyes and astutely points out that Chen Tian's current farming infrastructure suffers from a fatal lack of consistent surface water, confidently boasting that his own cryokinetic silkworm abilities will guarantee a steady supply, only for Chen Tian to confidently counter by revealing the 50-meter groundwater reserve waiting beneath their feet. Hearing this monumental revelation, the maternal and fiercely proactive queen ant, Ying, dynamically snaps her head upward, her telepathic voice ringing with absolute determination as she demands to know the exact coordinates of the subterranean vein, so she can immediately coordinate her specialized miner and builder worker ants to begin excavation. Pleased by her initiative, Chen Tian confirms the depth, and as the late night hour approaches, a satisfied Zhao Qihao bids his brother farewell, stepping onto the glowing array to return to his icy domain. Turning to his loyal queen, Chen Tian gives the definitive green light to initiate the deep boring operation tonight, prompting Ying to rally the chittering colony alongside the root-weaving assistance of Huo Ling to aggressively fracture the subterranean stone. While the colony digs, Chen Tian quietly navigates the humid, low-lit tunnels to inspect the vital incubation room, where a pristine clutch of ant eggs lies perfectly organized on the soil, anchored by a uniquely large, pulsing egg sitting directly at the vanguard. Activating the microscopic pinhole eye of his heavenly eye, he watches in fascination as the diamond interface identifies the specimen as a highly volatile, growth-type mutated ant egg. Without a shred of hesitation, he decisively drips a concentrated dose of growth potion onto the shell, triggering a blinding, incandescent flare of evolutionary energy that culminates in a massive, terrifying insect shattering its way into the world. The omniscient heavenly eye instantly flashes with data, identifying the magnificent creature as the mad demon blade ant, a mid-normal stage, growth-type mutant whose hyper-aggressive carapace is entirely comprised of jagged, razor-sharp blades, transforming it into a silent, absolutely obedient walking killing machine. The sudden spike of murderous aura draws a panicked Ying rushing into the nursery, her compound eyes wide with alarm as she raises her heavy mandibles to strike down the potential threat, only for Chen Tian to calmly soothe her protective instincts by reassuring her that the blade-covered monstrous warrior is fiercely loyal and one of their own. Before the tension can fully dissipate, the queen ant's antennae twitch violently as she urgently reports that the excavation teams have just uncovered a highly dangerous, massive movement deep within the newly bored tunnels. Gripping his heavy steel machete with white-knuckled intensity, Chen Tian commands the silent, lethal mad demon blade ant to take the point position as they descend into the pitch-black abyss, deploying a radiant sunstone to suddenly illuminate the claustrophobic stone corridor in an explosion of white light. There, writhing aggressively in the dirt ahead, lies a colossal, subterranean crypt sandworm. The heavenly eye instantly analyzes the gold-quality, bronze-level monstrosity, warning Chen Tian that this light-hating, schooling bug secretes a specialized moisture-retaining slime and becomes utterly enraged by sudden illumination, triggering a berserk state where it will ruthlessly devour any living biological matter in its path with unstoppable combat power. Suddenly, the monstrous sandworm unleashes a deafening, blood-curdling roar that causes the entire structural integrity of the tunnel to vibrate violently, lunging forward with terrifying velocity. Roaring a desperate command for the colony to retreat, Chen Tian spins on his heel and sprints madly back toward the surface, the apex predator chasing relentlessly right on his heels until it recklessly barrels straight into the pre-established combat radius of awaiting Huo Ling. Instantly, a massive, explosive volley of early gold-grade thorny vines erupts from the stone walls, piercing deeply into the sandworm's thick hide and trapping it in an agonizing, inescapable web of barbs that leaves the beast thrashing and screaming in futile torment. Seeing the apex threat successfully pinned by his loyal plant fortress, Chen Tian abruptly halts his retreat, spins around with a cold, predatory grin, and pulls out his chemical bug spray, unleashing a concentrated, suffocating blast directly down the creature's roaring maw until the massive gold-quality sandworm finally stiffens and falls completely still. Yet, before the exhausting triumph can even register across the sweat-drenched faces of the survivors, an even greater, world-shaking commotion echoes from the pitch-black depths of the tunnel, signaling that the true nightmare of the subterranean abyss has only just begun. The chaotic echoes of the subterranean abyss, reverberate violently through the damp corridor, prompting the 21-year-old Lord of Evolution, Chen Tian, to quickly store the massive gold-quality crypt sandworm carcass into his spatial inventory before fleeing backward past the threshold of his base's glowing protective barrier. With an intense heartbeat, a menacing vanguard of 8 furious crypt sandworms surges into the illuminated tunnel, their ranks structured into 1 terrifying gold-level supreme commander, 3 aggressive silver-level captains, and 4 bloodthirsty bronze-level shock troopers. The colossal gold-level commander bellows a deafening roar that shakes the loose bedrock, demanding to know why Chen Tian dared to slaughter its kin and violently swearing that he and his lowly ant colony will be brutally buried with the dead. Standing firmly behind his defense grid, Chen Tian lets out a cold, mocking laugh, sarcastically questioning why an apex leader would ask such a fundamentally foolish question before boldly daring the stinky bugs to charge forward if they possess the guts to face the monarch of the endless swarm. Blinded by pure rage, the colossal leader shrieks a lethal command that sends all 8 sandworms into a synchronized berserk state, their heavy carapaces thrashing wildly as they ram headlong into the glowing perimeter. However, the impenetrable energy net violently repels the massive gold and silver-level monsters, allowing only the 4 smaller bronze-level sandworms to pass through the filtering grid. Watching the 4 invaders lunge forward with bared mandibles, Chen Tian coldly snorts and commands his early gold-grade plant sentinel, Ling, to show no mercy, demanding their absolute execution and instructing the botanical fortress to immediately harvest any evolution-inducing blood cores that might drop. Instantly, an explosive volley of razor-sharp, heat-radiating thorny vines erupts from every square inch of the cavern walls, piercing flawlessly through the thick hides of the 4 bronze-level sandworms and instantly snuffing out their lives in a sickening spray of dark fluid. Witnessing their vanguard get systematically butchered within seconds, the 4 remaining high-tier monsters outside the barrier unleash agonizing, grief-stricken roars, throwing their immense weight into the protective energy field with increasing, suicidal frenzy. Frowning deeply at the bizarre spatial mechanics, Chen Tian lapses into silent, intense calculation, pondering why the ancient barrier actively filters out high-tier threats while consistently permitting bronze-level organisms to breach the perimeter. Before these complex questions can consume his thoughts, the childish and adoring Ling delicately rolls up 2 pristine, newly harvested blood cores with its vines and deposits them directly into its master's waiting palm. Pocketing the valuable crystals, Chen Tian extracts his hyper-concentrated chemical bug spray and hands the weapon over to the sentinel plant, directing Ling to step up to the energy line and administer a lethal extra dose to the trapped beasts outside. Eagerly seizing the canister, the loyal plant slithers right up to the transparent boundary and unleashes a continuous, suffocating cloud of toxic mist directly down the throats of the thrashing sandworms. The effects are instantaneous and catastrophic. The trapped monsters unleash blood-curdling shrieks as the agonizing toxins cause their heavy bodies to twitch violently, sending them crashing to the stone floor while spewing torrents of foul green liquid. Sensing the kill window, Ling gleefully administers several additional blasts, ensuring that 10 minutes later, the massive gold and silver-level sandworms fall completely motionless and dead. Taking advantage of the sudden silence, the nurturing and protective queen ant, Ying, uses her sharp forelegs to delicately dig through the ruptured flesh of the commander, triumphantly extracting a radiant, high-tier gold-level blood core, and presenting it to her master with an excited telepathic chime. Staring at the pulsing golden artifact, Chen Tian selflessly instructs his first contracted beast to absorb the core on the spot, urging her to boost her personal strength as much as humanly possible to safeguard the colony's future. Delighted by his immense generosity, the doting queen chirps a fiercely loyal acknowledgement, quickly moving over to Ling's side to consume the crystal and process its dense evolutionary nutrients. While the queen undergoes her transformation, Chen Tian strides into the bloody clearing to stow the massive insect carcasses into his spatial inventory, subsequently producing empty bamboo tubes to meticulously scrape up and collect the highly valuable, moisture-retaining slime coating the cavern floor. Out of the shadows, a deep, raspy, yet absolutely subservient voice suddenly slices through the humid air, politely offering to assist the master with the heavy manual labor. Chen Tian whips around in sheer, unbridled astonishment, his eyes locking onto the blade-covered mutant warrior as he excitedly asks if the newly hatched creature has already achieved full cognitive sentience. Bowing its razor-sharp torso in absolute reverence, the silent and combative growth-type beast confirms its absolute obedience, prompting the ecstatic Lord of Evolution to praise the heavens before officially naming the walking killing machine Mad Demon. Turning to the surrounding workforce, the young commander orders a detachment of specialized worker ants to collect the empty bamboo tubes, instructing them to clean the battlefield and transfer the collected slime deep into the colony's fermentation vats. Just as the industrious worker ants finish sanitizing the corridor, a violent, majestic pressure erupts from the center of the chamber. Ying's internal biological framework shatters its old limitations, her evolutionary aura skyrocketing in a spectacular burst of kinetic energy that elevates her status from late bronze all the way to early silver. Exhaling a triumphant telepathic cheer, the queen announces her successful breakthrough, prompting a proud nod from Chen Tian, who declares that with her upgraded silver-grade strength, It is finally time to launch a counter-offensive and thoroughly clear out the abandoned sandworm nest. Fortified by his elite core inner circle, Chen Tian marches deeper into the abyss, with the stoic Mad Demon leading the vanguard, and the newly ascended Silver Ant Queen anchoring the rear to form a flawless security detail. After a lengthy, suspenseful trek through the winding labyrinth, the claustrophobic stone tunnel opens up into a massive, echoing subterranean cavern. Deploying a glowing sunstone to pierce the Stygian darkness, the sudden burst of white light illuminates a sickening sight. Several plump, translucent white sandworm larvae are wriggling blindly within the damp soil of the nursery. The abrupt illumination instantly enrages a lingering bronze-level adult guardworm, which darts out from a hidden alcove and lunges aggressively toward the floating light source. Operating with terrifying, newly evolved speed, Ying swiftly pounces on the attacker before it can even breach their front line, her upgraded, razor-sharp mandibles snapping shut with bone-crushing force to slice the bronze monster completely in half in a single, fluid strike. Watching the carcass slide into the dirt, Chen Tian coldly orders the accompanying soldier ants to execute the remaining larvae and stack them into a centralized pile, an instruction the hyper-aggressive blade and shield ants fulfill with merciless efficiency. As the primary workforce finishes piling the tiny carcasses for spatial storage, Chen Tian's sharp eyes catch the unmistakable yellow luminescence of a rare container resting within a neglected passage ahead. Prying the latch open with his heavy steel machete, the gold treasure chest dissolves to yield two brilliant, floating prize orbs, which the pioneer quickly claims to reveal a silver-quality insect taming scroll and a magnificent, platinum-quality ice cellar storage room card. His diamond-quality heavenly eye instantly analyzes the items, detailing that the silver scroll establishes an unbreakable master-servant contract with an exceptionally high success rate for taming silver-level beasts, functioning as an absolute failsafe that triggers an instant internal self-destruction if the servant ever harbors a single shred of killing intent toward its master. Meanwhile, the platinum storage card promises to permanently merge with the architecture of the ant nest to manifest a sprawling, 100 square meter sub-zero cold storage chamber, capable of freezing pure water into solid ice and preserving perishable biological food reserves for at least 5 months, without spoiling, provided the survivors remember to keep the heavy access doors tightly sealed to prevent the loss of cold air. Declaring the lucrative subterranean raid an absolute success, Chen Tian turns on his heel to lead the expedition back to the surface, only for his advanced senses to catch a sudden, erratic flash of purple shadow darting across the rocky floor. Whipping around with narrowed eyes, he barks a high-priority command to halt the retreat, spotting a singular, uniquely hued larva dashing toward a hidden fissure at breakneck speed. Reacting with instantaneous combat reflexes, the lethal Mad Demon lunges through the air like a streak of black steel, its razor-sharp mandibles snapping downward to cleanly bite off the escaping creature's tail, though the resilient beast manages to slip deep into the narrow crevice. In that precise microsecond, the omniscient heavenly eye processes the fragment of biological tissue, superimposing a legendary datasheet that identifies the target as a highly volatile, growth-type special species known as the mutated crypt sandworm larva. The description reveals this incredibly rare specimen is the direct predecessor to the silver sand dragon worm and possesses an innate, paradoxical fear of water, despite an evolutionary destiny that forces it to constantly track aquatic veins, endowing it with a specialized bloodline talent to repel catastrophic droughts and pinpoint vital groundwater sources in the most arid regions of the world. Reading the immense, game-changing utility of the creature, Chen Tian grits his teeth and commands his elite pets to initiate a full-scale hunt, swearing to capture the rare breed alive so he can deploy his newly won taming scroll. Led by the tireless tracking of Mad Demon, and backed by the overwhelming numbers of Ying's ant colony, the expeditionary force drives the bleeding larva deep into the uncharted network of the cavern until they successfully corner the shivering creature against the banks of a massive, hidden underground lake. Beholding the vast expanse of crystal-clear groundwater, Chen Tian rejoices aloud at the complete resolution of their colony's agricultural water crisis before adopting a deliberately ferocious, intimidating expression as he steps toward the trembling, purple silver sand larva. Adopting the tone of a ruthless monarch, he coldly warns the cowering creature that regardless of whether it understands human speech, it had better pray can comprehend the gravity of its situation, promising that if it submits to his absolute authority, he will not only spare its life, but actively deploy his supreme evolutionary talents to help it ascend into its final, world-shaking silver sand dragon worm form. Recognizing the futile nature of resistance against the surrounding swarm, the intelligent larva slowly lies flat on the damp earth, freezing its movements in a gesture of absolute capitulation. Chen Tian promptly unfurls the silver taming scroll, watching the artifact dissolve into a radiant beam of light that embeds itself into the larva's forehead, cementing a strange, telepathic master-servant bond between their consciousnesses. Satisfied with the capture of their new scout, Beisha, the Lord of Evolution commands a triumphant return to the main base, eager to secure their rewards and obtain a well-deserved night of deep, restorative rest. Arriving back within the central hub of the Level 2 ant nest, Chen Tian immediately deploys the Platinum Ice Cellar storage card against the reinforced stone wall, watching the card fracture into thousands of glittering particles that seamlessly alter the subterranean geography until an exceptionally spacious, frost-covered cold storage room opens before his eyes. With a satisfied smirk, he unloads his entire spatial inventory, dumping hundreds of pounds of fresh insect, fish, and high-tier mantis meat onto the frozen shelves before officially dismissing the tired colony and leading the stoic mad demon and the recovering Beisha back to his private master bedroom, where he collapses onto his mattress and plummets into a deep, dreamless sleep. The following morning, the peaceful silence is violently shattered as his communication interface lights up with frantic, high-energy broadsides from Zhao Qihao, who humorously boasts that he has secured an incredible haul of high-tier treasures and demands an immediate meeting at his icy domain. Texting back a brief, dry confirmation, a groggy Chen Tian rolls out of bed with a dark, exhausted expression, summoning his blade-covered captain and his timid new sandworm pet to his side, before stepping into the pulsing white light of the Alliance teleportation array. Within a flash of spatial displacement, the trio materializes inside the frosty, crystalline interior of Chihao's private bedroom, where the energetic, fiercely loyal friend greets them with a massive grin, eagerly declaring that before he reveals his secret treasure trove, the two university survivors must march out to the local portal to claim their daily evolutionary rewards from the mysterious secret realm. Deep within the frosty, whispering pine forest where the shadows stretch long and cold under a merciless sky, the two university survivors trek toward an ancient structure until they arrive before a massive stone gate, mystic realm standing impossibly tall amidst the sub-zero elements. Grinning broadly, Chen Tian casually asks his companion if he intends to test his fortune on the spatial lottery, drawing an eager, confident nod from Zhao Qihao as the energetic young man steps directly up to the ancient threshold, causing a shimmering holographic display to flicker across the stone surface to reveal his high-ranking data. Name: Zhao Qihao. ID: Great Song, Zhao family. Rank: 998 level S-class. The moment the familiar, multicolored celestial roulette wheel manifests in a swirl of spatial energy, Qihao lets out a boisterous, comedic laugh, raising his hands to the heavens as he playfully shouts that he is willing to sacrifice his best bro, Chen Tian's lifelong bachelorhood, as a cosmic offering to secure a divine strike before aggressively initiating the draw. Within a heartbeat, the roulette wheel spins at blinding speed, slowing down until two radiant orbs of light pop out of the nexus and materialize into exceptionally rare, glowing item cards before their eyes. The first card manifests as a rare-quality ghost bug pool card, an ominous artifact capable of generating a dark, supernatural basin where survivors can drop insect corpses to transform them into living dead bug puppets. Though these reanimated husks possess absolutely no individual intelligence or soul, they retain 3/4 of their original combat strength while preserving their absolute baseline tier, perfectly embodying the card's grim description. Give me a corpse, and I'll give you an incredibly loyal living dead bug. The second prize materializes as a breathtaking, platinum-quality hand-cranked water pump full-set card, a legendary piece of mechanical survival gear that automatically installs upon activation, utilizing manual pressure to draw deep subterranean reserves straight to the surface through a heavy, 100-meter pipe system engineered to automatically adjust and extend its length through solid bedrock. Without a shred of greed, the fiercely loyal Zhao Qihao immediately hands the platinum water pump card to Chen Tian, warmly declaring that it belongs to him, so the Lord of Evolution can fully capitalize on the 50-meter groundwater vein discovered by his colony the night before. Pocketing the high-tier prize with a grateful nod, Chen Tian listens intently as Qihao conspiratorially drops his voice to a mysterious whisper, proudly boasting that he is about to broaden his brother's horizons by leading him to a magnificent, hidden natural hot spring tucked deep within the uncharted recesses of the cavern system. Following his eccentric friend into the subterranean dark, the two survivors navigate a series of jagged, ice-slick tunnels until they emerge into a colossal, breathtaking inner grotto. At the heart of this majestic cavern stands a towering, massive tree of crystalline proportions, its ancient roots dipping into a small, steaming puddle of water surrounded by a dense, luminescent carpet of scattered blue flowers that cast a haunting, ethereal glow across the frozen rock walls. Activating the microscopic pinhole eye between his brows, Chen Tian's diamond-quality heavenly eye automatically superimposes an advanced analytical data grid upon the botanical wonder, identifying it as an epic-quality ice soul tree, a legendary, hyper-rare flora that only manifests within caves rich in ice marrow, whose pristine trunk and leaves are laced with a lethal, flesh-rotting cold poison. The analysis further reveals that the rare ice soul fruits hanging from its frozen boughs can temporarily skyrocket a survivor's level and permanently fortify their baseline physical physique, despite a scaling built-in tolerance, while granting a passive immunity to extreme cold. Furthermore, the surrounding stardust flowers serve as the definitive antidote to the tree's deadly cold toxins. Its ice vines can be harvested into formidable weapons that unleash frost venom upon impact, and the central ice soul pool grants permanent cold poison immunity to anyone who undergoes long-term soaking, though it remains inexorably bound to the tree's life force. Quickly whispering these vital strategic details to his friend, Chen Tian nods as Chi-Hao commands his late bronze-grade Ice Mountain Heavenly Silkworm to slowly glide toward the shoreline to pluck a few life-saving stardust flower petals. The pure white silkworm lands delicately before the glowing flora, utilizing its mandibles to harvest the petals before expertly wrapping them in defensive silk threads to slowly drag the prize back to its master. Suddenly, the tranquil atmosphere shatters as a barrage of razor-sharp ice spikes shoots rapidly through the air from the canopy above, followed by dozens of aggressive, sapphire-blue ice soul ants leaping down from the branches to viciously pounce on the silkworm. Reacting with near-instantaneous combat instincts, the mystical silkworm securely grips the wrapped petals in its mouth, leaps gracefully into the air, and unleashes a massive, swirling vortex of frosty silk to successfully deflect the incoming shards, immediately firing a high-velocity anchoring thread straight toward Chen Tian's position. Spotting the tactical opening, the Ant King summoner reaches out, catches the icy lifeline with white-knuckled intensity, and yanks with all his might, safely pulling the silkworm across the battlefield as the precious antidote petals slide flawlessly into his hand. Before they can celebrate, a majestic, echoing voice booms through the cavern, coldly commanding the human trespassers to retreat at once and never return if they wish the hive to let bygones be bygones. Looking up into the frozen canopy, Chen Tian spots a magnificent, stark white ant glaring daggers down at them, prompting the heavenly eye to instantly map the creature's profile. Epic quality, gold-level Ice Soul Ant King. The system warns that this supreme guardian bug possesses immense, world-shaking combat power fueled entirely by the cold poison it absorbs from the tree, resulting in a fatal symbiotic over-reliance that prevents it from ever leaving the roots. If it ever abandons the Ice Soul tree, its combat power will rapidly decay due to poison starvation, culminating in a swift and absolute death. Viewing this limitation with a sly, predatory grin, Chen Tian scoffs aloud, mocking the stinky bug for spouting such arrogant nonsense before turning to a bewildered Chi-Hao, addressing him as number 7 and jokingly telling him that he is giving him a glorious chance to show off by going out to fight the gold-level monarch for 300 rounds. Stunned by the casual betrayal, Chi-Hao shrieks in disbelief, asking if Chen Tian is even speaking human language by demanding he charge a gold-tier epic boss completely alone. Chen Tian chuckles, waving the stardust flower petals in the air as a reminder of the immunity effects while encouraging his brother to hurry up, noting that the majestic Ice Soul Ant King is actually a flawless candidate to become Chi-Hao's very first living dead bug puppet. Understanding the brilliant tactical play, Chi-Hao nods as Chen Tian hands him the defensive petals, only for the Lord of Evolution to suddenly deliver a harsh kick right to his friend's backside, sending him flying out of the shadows with a loud, painful thud as Chi-Hao's face makes intimate contact with the frozen ground. Cursing loudly that he will screw Chen Tian's grandmother and vowing sweet revenge, the resilient Zhao Chi-Hao scrambles to his feet and dashes frantically toward the nearest cluster of stardust flowers. With his loyal silkworm deploying massive silk barriers to block the incoming elemental strikes, Chi-Hao completely ignores the surrounding swarms of blue worker and soldier ants to focus entirely on harvesting. Watching the human intruder brazenly pillage his kingdom, the Ice Soul Ant King roars furiously from his high perch, screaming that the trespassers court death. Seizing a discarded, razor-sharp ice spike from the cavern floor, Chen Tian barks a quick command to his timid Trinitarian scout, instructing Beixia to add a dose of toxic reinforcement. Operating with flawless loyalty, the mutated crypt sandworm larva immediately spits a dense, highly corrosive glob of venom onto the tip of the frozen projectile. Balancing the weapon in his palm, the Lord of Evolution aims directly at the exposed torso of the screaming monarch and hurls the spike with all his might. The venom-laced projectile hits with sniper-like precision, smashing squarely into the Ant King's back, and instantly corroding its pristine white carapace into a scorched black mark, causing the gold-level beast to jump in pure, unadulterated agony. Beneath the canopy, Zhao Chi-Hao navigates the battlefield as if entering an entirely uninhabited land, completely impervious to the biting frost as he sweeps the terrain clean, gathering the rare stardust flowers in a dizzying blur, before sprinting back to Chen Tian's side to hand over a massive bundle of the glowing flora, panting that together the two brothers are completely invincible. Accepting the harvest, Chen Tian distributes 2 fresh flowers to the silent, bloodthirsty mad demon blade ant and the clever Beixia, commanding his core inner circle to join the fray. With a commanding roar, the monarch of the endless swarm orchestrates his final tactical deployment, ordering Chi-Hao and the heavenly silkworm to draw the Ant King's aggro from the front, while Beixia disrupts the lower-tier blue ants, leaving Chen Tian and his blade-covered vanguard free to harvest the priceless fruits. Dashing forward into the mist, Chen Tian reaches the frozen branches, rapidly plucking the glowing ice soul fruits and casually tossing a pristine specimen straight into the mandibles of the mad demon blade ant, commanding the growth-type mutant to eat it to forcefully elevate its baseline strength. Without a microsecond of hesitation, the fiercely loyal melee captain swallows the epic fruit in a single gulp, instantly triggering a blinding, incandescent eruption of blood-red evolutionary energy that completely envelops its armored chassis. A few seconds later, the crimson light fades to reveal the warrior's aura skyrocketing to the absolute pinnacle of the silver level, its blade-covered body pulsing with lethal power. Sensing the sudden loss of his kingdom's treasures, the wounded ice soul ant king breaks away from Zhao Qihao's desperate entanglement, moving at breakneck speed as it charges directly at Chen Tian, like a white meteor of pure hatred. Spotting the impending impact, Mad Demon screams a telepathic warning for his master to be careful, instantly planting his blade-covered body directly in front of the young summoner to block the Supreme Monarch's path. Behind the rushing boss, a panicked Zhao Qihao chases wildly, screaming for Chen Tian to dodge because the golden beast has gone completely berserk. Standing his ground with absolute, ice-cold composure, the Lord of Evolution commands his allies to step aside, coldly declaring to the oncoming monster that approaching his person is the single greatest and final mistake of its miserable life. In a flash of kinetic displacement, the specialized chemical bug spray manifests in Chen Tian's hand, and he unleashes a massive, concentrated blast of suffocating toxins directly into the Ant King's face, throwing the Golden Monarch into a state of immediate, agonizing blindness. Capitalizing on the monster's paralysis, Chen Tian extracts the vast reserves of moisture-retaining crypt sandworm slime collected from the previous night's harvest and pours the heavy, suffocating sludge entirely over the thrashing boss, completely burying the epic Ice Soul Ant King beneath a mountain of viscous, immobilizing residue that seals its doom within the frozen depths. The echoing shadows of the Sub-Zero cavern wall ripple with lethal intent as the Lord of Evolution, Chen Tian, fiercely locks his gaze onto the reeling target, issuing a crisp, unyielding command through his telepathic bond for his elite melee captain to execute the final stroke, shouting for Mad Demon to finish it, but explicitly warning the blade-clad warrior not to obliteratingly smash the corpse since another soul desperately requires its intact biological anatomy. Instantly complying with absolute obedience, the silent, bloodthirsty Mad Demon blade ant blurs across the frost-slick stone like a streak of dark armor, its razor-sharp appendages snapping closed in a fluid, devastating executioner's strike that flawlessly snuffs out the remaining life force of the colossal Ice Soul Ant King. Watching the epic-quality Guardian Monarch collapse into the dirt, Zhao Qihao's jaw drops in pure, unadulterated astonishment, his eyes bulging as he humorously barks at his best friend that he was harboring an absolute nuclear option of a killer weapon like this the entire time without bringing it out to play, leaving him to sweat and worry for absolutely nothing. The exact microsecond, the Supreme White Sovereign falls, the entire highly structured colony of blue ice soul ants instantly fractures into a state of chaotic, panicked madness, their telepathic net shattered as they scurry mindlessly in all directions across the cavern floor before their heavily poisoned internal biology abruptly short-circuits, causing their sapphire carapaces to stiffen rigidly in place as life rapidly drains from their uncoordinated limbs. Turning to his core vanguard, the 21-year-old former university student barks a high-priority cleanup directive, commanding Mad Demon and the timid mutated crypt sandworm, larva, Baisha, to rapidly sweep the cavern floor and gather every single glowing evolution-inducing crystal, adamantly warning them to leave absolutely none behind as he steps forward to personally pry open the shattered skull of the dead Ant King, securely pocketing its radiant gold-level blood core. After a lengthy, meticulous sweep of the blood-splattered grotto, the young commander triumphantly evaluates their monumental haul, counting 1 magnificent gold level, 3 sparkling silver level, 10 robust bronze level, and 50 standard normal level crystals, culminating in a staggering bounty of 64 pristine blood cores. Reaching into his spatial inventory, Chen Tian unloads a generous portion of their botanical spoils, handing 12 icy, glowing ice soul fruits directly to a grateful Zhao Qihao, who slides the precious elixirs into his dimensional pouch before enthusiastically pulling out his newly acquired rare-quality Ghost Bug Pool card and lightly crushing the artifact between his palms. Instantly, the card dissolves into thousands of dark, sparkling motes of energy that seep into the bedrock, causing a bubbling, pitch-black pool of supernatural fluid to manifest on the ground. With a wide, predatory grin, Qihao hauls the massive carcass of the white ice soul ant king and hurls it straight into the black basin, watching in fascination as the viscous, necrotic liquid rapidly envelops the dead apex predator, systematically dragging its massive frame beneath the surface until it completely vanishes into the dark depths of the puppet-making engine. Witnessing the completion of the dark ritual, Chen Tian calmly strides over to the steaming edge of the ancient ice soul pool, places a freshly plucked ice soul fruit into his mouth, and bites down, causing a dense, hyper-concentrated surge of frosty life energy to violently explode across his taste buds before he takes a deep breath and dives headfirst straight into the freezing, crystalline waters. The bone-chilling fluid instantly swallows his entire form like a vise of liquid nitrogen, the extreme sub-zero currents violently seeping through every exposed pore and into his deepest muscle fibers, aggressively tearing his cellular structures apart down to the molecular level, only for the dense medicinal properties of the fruit to instantly repair the damage under the brutal, evolutionary tempering of the primordial frost. The sheer sensory overload is excruciating, making it feel as though his very soul is being shattered into jagged shards of ice, until the agonizing pain overloads his neural pathways and causes his internal consciousness to blur into a dark, hazy twilight. In the midst of this dangerous, drifting stupor, Zhao Qihao's panicked, echoing voice suddenly pierces through the mental fog like a thunderclap, with his fiercely loyal friend screaming at the top of his lungs for Chen Tian to wake the hell up, comically threatening that if he dares to die in this pool like a fool, Chihao will personally broadcast every single dirty video Chen Tian has ever watched and expose all of his closet pervert secrets directly to the global world chat interface for all eternity. The sheer, hilarious horror of the threat acts like a jolt of pure adrenaline, causing the Lord of Evolution to instantly snap awake in a fit of rage, roaring out a furious curse that he will never let Chihao off the hook even if he returns as a ghost, before violently unleashing a long, echoing howl that rattles the hanging icicles, as he commands his internal energy to break through its mortal shackles. Instantly, a magnificent pillar of kinetic energy erupts from his body, his internal power grid steadily climbing past the limitations of his old rank until his aura finally stabilizes at the formidable early gold level. Leaping gracefully out of the steaming basin, he lands firmly on his feet, right in front of a grinning Chihao, flexing his newly reinforced fists, as he shudders, muttering that the evolutionary refinement process is simply too brutal, feeling exactly like enduring a slow death by 1,000 agonizing cuts. Chuckling at his brother's complaints, Chihao stares in awe at the dense golden light radiating from his friend, noting that Chen Tian is now sitting at the gold level, a whole major realm higher than his own bronze status, prompting Chen Tian to ask if Chihao wants to jump into the freezing pool to experience the torment himself, a terrifying proposition. The humorous friend quickly shuts down by declaring he will wisely save that trial for when he attempts his breakthrough from bronze to silver. Pointing toward the deep, shimmering fractures in the back of the grotto, Chen Tian reminds his reliable brother that a highly beneficial ice marrow vein is hidden nearby which will permanently skyrocket the strength of his white silkworm, urging him to look for it with absolute care before noting that several hours have already vanished since they entered the grotto and that he must urgently teleport back to manage his expanding ant colony. Nodding understandingly, Chihao promises to thoroughly excavate the cavern and walks his brother back to the portal chamber, turning to his newly reanimated, white-eyed ice soul ant king puppet to coldly command it to guard the grotto with its life and notify him the precise millisecond an anomaly occurs, drawing a hollow, chilling telepathic affirmation from the undead monster. Stepping back onto the intricate array within the freezing incubation room, a brilliant flash of white spatial displacement consumes Chen Tian's vision, instantly depositing him and his two pets back onto the stone floor of his private bedroom within the level 2 ant nest. Wasting no time, the pragmatic leader retrieves a pristine ice soul fruit and hands it to his timid sand-burrowing scout, Baisha, instructing the mutated crypt sandworm larva to drink a heavy dose of platinum-grade spirit spring water before attempting to consume the cold poison elixir to ensure its delicate biological framework doesn't get utterly vaporized by the frost energy. Following its master's strategic blueprint flawlessly, the loyal larva scoots over to the glowing spring pool, chugs several mouthfuls of the sparkling, medicinal water, and resolutely swallows the frozen fruit whole, immediately curling into a tight ball as it begins to quietly absorb the dense evolutionary matrix. Leaving his bedroom to inspect the state of his territory, Chen Tian ascends the dark stone shafts until he steps out onto the scorching surface, his eyes panning across the vibrant agricultural fields where hundreds of specialized builder, farmer, and miner worker ants are bustling with mechanical efficiency to clear trenches and care for the crops under a brutal sky. Sensing the familiar, majestic presence of her master, the doting and fiercely protective queen ant, Ying, scurries up from a nearby excavation trench, her large compound eyes scanning his reinforced physical form as she telepathically asks how his baseline strength managed to skyrocket all the way to the legendary gold level in such a short span of time. In response, the Ant King summoner materializes another glowing ice soul fruit from his pouch, handing the divine medicinal treasure to his core queen while telling her to eat it so she can break past her own combat limitations, causing the maternal nanny-like ant to chirp happily, requesting her dear master to personally keep watch over the surface while she retreats into the insulated safety of the cave to process the explosive evolution. Just as her massive frame disappears down the tunnel mouth, the childish, high-pitched voice of the early gold-grade fire thorns rings out from the dirt, with Huoling's barbed vines wrapping excitedly around Chen Tian's leg as it eagerly demands to receive the exact same incredible tonic its master just gifted to sister, Ying. Smiling at the living fortress's competitive nature, Chen Tian asks if the sentinel plant is absolutely certain that absorbing the extreme cold poison fruit will allow its fire-attributed biology to successfully shatter its current limitations and ascend to the platinum level, drawing an enthusiastic boast from the childish plant as it proudly declares it will effortlessly absorb the frost energy while the midday sun reaches its blistering peak before vanishing beneath the earth in a flurry of roots. Turning his attention toward his agricultural layout, Chen Tian retrieves the newly won platinum-quality hand-cranked water pump full-set card and confirms its immediate activation, watching the card spin gracefully in the hot air before transforming into a rugged, traditional iron water pump anchored firmly over the bedrock. As a sleek holographic interface lights up to display a calibration readout, showing the current pipe length sitting at 0 out of 100 meters, he quickly taps the digital screen until the metric hits 50, causing the heavy pump structure to vibrate violently as its subterranean titanium piping automatically extends down through the solid stone layers until a cheerful notification chimes to confirm that pipe deployment is complete. A vital water source has been detected, and manual pumping may now begin. Gripping the heavy iron handle with both hands, the gold-level pioneer pumps the mechanism up and down with vigorous, rhythmic strength, sweating under the oppressive heat until a sudden, refreshing splashing sound echoes from the iron spout as a torrential geostrophic stream of crystal-clear spring water finally gushes out, flooding the dry-tilling trenches with abundant moisture. In that exact moment of agricultural triumph, a high-priority emergency notification flashes on his main communications screen, revealing a direct message from a highly influential survivor, utilizing the enigmatic cryptographic ID, Jujo. The text politely inquires if the Lord of Evolution still possesses any premium healing or purification potions, stating with absolute seriousness that they are highly prepared to pay an astronomical price for them and wish to establish an exclusive, long-term trade partnership between their respective factions. Testing the true mettle and intentions of the mystery buyer, Chen Tian fires back a cynical response, asking if they would still desperately seek a long-term alliance if he revealed he only had a single solitary bottle left in his inventory. Unfazed by the classic negotiation probe, Jujo calmly replies that if Chen Tian is merely attempting to test their underlying factional strength, there is absolutely no need for such games, confidently revealing that their personal power ranking sits comfortably within the top 3 of the entire global leaderboards before reiterating their demand for a permanent cooperation. Impressed by the raw, unshakable confidence of the elite pioneer, Chen Tian agrees to the terms, adding the individual to his exclusive friend list while textually wishing for a highly pleasant and mutually lucrative cooperation moving forward. As the digital interface registers their new connection, the trader sends a polite follow-up message, identifying his true civilian surname as Xia and his full given name as Huachuan, a legendary moniker that causes Chen Tian's eyes to widen in complete disbelief as he types back an amazed inquiry, asking if the individual on the other side of the screen is truly the world-renowned dragon head, Saya Huachuan, the highly revered elder Saya of the old world's superpower governance. On the other end, the veteran leader lets out a weary digital sigh, textually pointing out that it matters very little whether he holds the title of the Dragonhead anymore, because this wild, unforgiving realm is no longer the Blue Star, nor is it the borders of the old dragon country, leaving nothing but ordinary survivors like themselves fighting tooth and nail to endure the apocalypse. Seeing the elder effectively admit his true, legendary identity, Chen Tian drops the formalities and directly asks if the high-ranking leader requires a steady supply of clean water. To which Elder Xiao replies that he is currently down to his final 10 bottles of fluid and is entirely willing to complete an immediate trade, though he specifies he can only barter using precious blood cores at the steep baseline market rate of 500 cores per bottle. Without a moment's hesitation, Chen Tian lists 10 premium bottles of his platinum-grade spirit spring water on the secure trade screen. To his immense satisfaction, Elder Xia not only instantly deposits the massive payment of 5,000 blood cores, but generously includes 2 highly rare, silver-level magical rice seeds as a goodwill bonus to solidify their bond. Closing the transaction screen with immense satisfaction, the young summoner decides to capitalize on the Elder's top-tier intelligence network, firing off a crucial, deeply serious question regarding what catastrophic event will unfold the very second the universal 7-day novice protection period officially expires. The response from the Dragon Head is devastatingly brief, appearing as a stark, terrifying line of text that reads, 70-degree extreme heat polar day. A thick, suffocating silence descends upon the clearing as Chen Tian stares solemnly at the chilling text, his brow furrowed in deep concern as his mind races to comprehend the apocalyptic implications of a never-ending daylight cycle, coupled with a fatal 70 Celsius heatwave. Snapping into crisis management mode, he aggressively opens his friend list and pings his best friend, urgently commanding, number 7, to drop whatever he is doing and teleport over immediately, because a game-changing, world-altering catastrophe is about to breach their shores. Hurrying back down into the subterranean tunnels, he summons the newly hidden Huoling to his side, calling out for the sentinel plant to follow him as he marches deep into the hives to assemble his core high-tier beasts for an emergency war council. Gathering his inner circle within the shaded expanse of the Queen's chamber, Chen Tian systematically lays out the terrifying details of the impending solar disaster, only for the newly ascended Silver Ant Queen, Ying, to gently tilt her massive, armored head in complete and utter confusion. With her characteristic, nurturing nanny-like demeanor, she lets out a soothing telepathic click, asking her master what there is to possibly be nervous about, calmly pointing out that an endless daylight cycle and a 70-degree surface heatwave hold absolutely no sway over an insulated ant nest buried 30 meters deep into the earth, nor can it touch a crystal-clear groundwater source locked 50 meters beneath the solid bedrock. Furthermore, the brilliant queen astutely notes that if the sun remains at its absolute peak indefinitely, the relentless solar radiation will actually act as an unparalleled, god-tier super tonic for the sun-absorbing fire thorns, meaning that with Huoling blocking and converting the heat on the surface, the colony tucked safely below won't feel a single thing, concluding her speech by warmly urging her master to rest his heart and stop losing his head over a non-threat. The profound, logical breakdown hits Chen Tian like a bucket of cold water, instantly snapping him out of his panic as he slaps his forehead, laughing aloud at his own foolishness as he realizes his survival shelter is entirely subterranean and engineered to withstand surface extremes. Chiming into the conversation with absolute, childlike glee, Huling violently sways its vines, boasting that if the world enters a permanent polar day, barring any unforeseen accidents, it can definitively shatter its current bottlenecks to break through to the magnificent diamond level, explaining that the invisible wall of obstruction it has been feeling is growing increasingly fragile under the ambient heat. Just then, a fresh notification pings across his interface from a sarcastic Zhao Qihao, who humorously asks what the immense rush is about, and mockingly questions if Chen Tian has somehow managed to die already. Firing back a quick text, the Lord of Evolution clarifies that he is very much alive, but has just received definitive word from the top 3 ranked dragon head that in less than 48 hours, the novice barrier will dissolve into a brutal polar day of absurdly high temperatures. The news causes Qihao to explode with a barrage of text, cursing in pure shock before urgently stating that he is jumping onto the teleportation array this very second, adding an intriguing caveat that he will be introducing an incredibly important person to Chen Tian upon his arrival. Closing out the chat log, the young monarch turns toward the massive figures of the Fire Spirit and the Ant Queen, strictly commanding his core beasts to completely hide their presence from sight when the guest arrives, instructing them to stay far away from his personal master bedroom while ordering Huoling to keep a vigilant watch from the deep shadows of the caverns so it can strike down the visitors with absolute, lethal force the precise microsecond any unexpected hostility manifests. An order the loyal plant sentinel enthusiastically accepts, as Chen Tian turns on his heel and marches back to his private chambers to await the spatial arrival of his brother. The dense, clinical silence of the level 2 ant nest is shattered as Chen Tian meticulously pockets his remaining reserves of spirit, spring potion, his sharp eyes darting toward the central teleportation array, just as it erupts in a blinding cascade of white spatial energy. As the light dissolves, it reveals the familiar, robust figure of his dependable best friend, Zhao Qihao, standing alongside an unexpected and bizarre sight, a middle-aged woman bound so tightly in glowing defensive silk threads by Qihao's late bronze-grade Ice Mountain heavenly silkworm that she resembles a helpless cocoon. The absolute microsecond Chen Tian's gaze lands upon her weathering features, his pupils violently contract with a mixture of ancient recognition and raw, visceral fury. Without a single word of inquiry, a heavy steel machete materializes in his right palm, slicing through the air with a piercing, lethal whistle as he launches a full-force executioner's slash directly toward her throat. Terrified by the sudden lethal onslaught, Zhao Qihao lunges forward with a panicked cry, screaming for his best friend to wait, which forces Chen Tian to abruptly halt the momentum of his blade a mere millimeter from the tip of the trembling woman's nose. Her eyes bulge from their sockets as she stares blankly at the cold, razor-sharp edge hovering inches from her face, her mind completely shattered by the sheer proximity of death, while the 21-year-old university survivor demands to know in an icy, blood-curdling voice if this pathetic creature is truly the grand surprise. Number 7, promise to bring over. Before the stunned Qihao can find his words, Chen Tian violently yanks the filthy cloth rag from the captive's mouth, causing the reinforced bedroom walls to instantly ring with her hysterical, high-pitched shrieks as she begs to be let go, frantically crying that she will do absolutely anything and swearing that she has no ancient grudge or prior history with them. A chilling, mocking sneer curls onto the face of the Lord of Evolution as he scoffs at the pure absurdity of her words, muttering that it is absolutely fucking ridiculous for her to claim there is no grudge, though he supposes it has been over a decade since she abandoned her life, making it entirely natural that her superficial mind wouldn't recognize his face. Leaning down until his cold breath brushes her cheek, he offers to vividly jog her memory, whispering a series of haunting, unforgettable triggers: winter solstice, a relentless rainy day, the cold stone entrance of a forgotten city orphanage, and the word bastard spat into the mud, causing the woman's face to instantly turn a ghastly, deathly shade of pale as she recognizes the boy she threw away, screaming hysterically that he is a goddamn monster and demanding her release while asking if he truly possesses the dark malice to murder his own biological mother. Chen Tian's expression hardens into a mask of pure stone. He coldly declares that his memory contains absolutely no record of a mother, meaning she is nothing more than an unauthorized imposter who should hurry up and be on her way, before effortlessly flicking his wrist to let the tip of the machete trace a bloody, shallow gash right across her cheekbone. The weeping captive thrashes her bound body wildly against the floorboards, screaming curses and spitting saliva in an unhinged frenzy until Chen Tian, thoroughly disgusted by the cacophony, mutters that she is far too noisy and delivers a microscopic, blinding flash of his blade that sends a bloody chunk of severed tongue flopping onto the stone floor. As her muffled, choking screams echo through the chamber, her eyes roll back and she mercifully passes out from pure psychological trauma, prompting a grim Chen Tian to look up at number 7 and command him to immediately input the spatial coordinates to teleport them directly to her personal survival shelter. A cold sweat breaks out on Zhao Qihao's forehead as he nervously asks what his friend truly intends to accomplish by going there, to which the Ant King summoner darkly replies that he intends to personally witness what kind of horrific cosmic entities constantly hunt and torture and abandon one who has lost their survival system watch, exactly as the global world logs described. Receiving a somber nod from his reliable companion, Chen Tian grabs the half-dead body of the bleeding woman by her binds, dragging her comatose frame onto the glowing teleportation tiles before a synchronized flash of white light rips them across space and deposits them inside her designated base. The moment Chen Tian pushes open the creaking, dilapidated wooden door, a staggering mountain of domestic waste and decaying organic matter greets their eyes, unleashing a weaponized wave of rotting, sulfurous, and foul stenches that violently assaults their nasal passages, making both men instantly gag with extreme nausea. Just as a disgusted Zhao Qihao steps forward to slam the wooden barrier shut to block out the odor, a bloated, repulsively fat maggot sporting a weeping face that mirrors a suffering human being slowly and wetly crawls over the threshold, prompting Qihao to violently kick the heavy door closed and latch it shut before the creature can breach the room. In that brief, horrifying fraction of a second, Chen Tian's diamond-quality heavenly eye had already flashed across the abomination's slimy hide, superimposing a detailed system profile into his mind. Human face ghost maggot. Quality, growth type, level, peak bronze, a mutated necrophage bearing a visage resembling a tormented human, excels at devastating mental attacks. Warning: do not stare into its ghostly face for prolonged periods or your consciousness will be forcibly dragged into a permanent, maddening illusion. Thrives exclusively in environments choked with feces, dampness, foul rot, and sweltering decay. Reading the grim warning, an involuntary shiver ripples down the young summoner's spine, but he quickly shakes off the unease and instructs the eager Zhao Qihao to help him loot the surrounding storage chests completely clean, before the structural environment deteriorates further. To his immense satisfaction, their rapid pillaging yields an incredible haul of high-tier gear, a breathtaking platinum-level recurve bow, an enigmatic glowing ability card, an ancient crafting blueprint scroll, 40 sturdy bronze-quality stone-tipped arrows, a plump piece of bronze-level ginger, 3 fiery normal-level bird's-eye chilies, and a massive assortment of miscellaneous cooking ingredients. Focusing his analytical gaze on the armaments, the heavenly eye reads out the stats of the prized weapon, revealing it to be the frostbow, a platinum-quality longbow, possessing the passive trait to automatically condense 10 specialized frost arrows out of ambient moisture that cause a definitive freezing effect upon impact, entering a strict 10-minute cooldown after deployment, during which regular ammunition can still be manually fired. The accompanying gold-quality mini-B card functions as a high-tech surveillance matrix capable of permanently generating 6 micro-reconnaissance mechanical bees upon consumption to allow for remote, long-range audio-visual monitoring, while the simple bronze-quality stone arrow crafting scroll outlines a rudimentary blueprint requiring 2 small stones and 1 small wooden stick per projectile. Displaying his characteristic loyalty and fairness, Chen Tian dumps the entire haul of raw food materials and spices into Zhao Qihao's inventory for his personal sustenance, while smoothly pocketing the bow, the ammunition, and the mystical scrolls into his own spatial dimensional pouch. Crushing the golden mini-B card between his fingers, he watches the artifact dissolve into a warm streak of light that burrows into his chest, and with a subtle flex of his mental willpower, 6 microscopic, metallic surveillance bees manifest in the palm of his hand, buzzing silently before he commands one of the mechanical insects to fly into the highest, darkest corner of the derelict shelter to establish a hidden vantage point. Leaving the unconscious woman on the filthy floorboards as cosmic bait, the 2 survivors quickly step back onto the localized teleportation array, shifting spatial coordinates back to the fortified safety of Zhao Qihao's private bedroom to monitor the live feed. Opening his holographic communication screen, Chen Tian synchronizes the remote frequency, causing a crystal-clear, real-time video feed from the hidden bee to transmit directly onto the virtual overlay, showing the bound woman lying perfectly motionless in the dim, garbage-strewn shadows as the hours slowly grind away. They wait in absolute, breathless silence for more than half a day, watching the digital feed stretch deep into the dead of night, until the surveillance screen suddenly begins to shake and vibrate with violent, erratic static. A cold horror unfolds before their eyes as a thick, dark red, and viscous liquid begins to unnaturally seep from the solid wooden walls like sweating blood, while the massive piles of rotting food scraps in the distant corner begin to vanish at a visible, terrifying rate, dissolving into a sizzling pool of crimson gore. On the ground, the comatose woman suddenly snaps awake, her remaining stump of a tongue letting out frantic, guttural roars of pure madness as her unmoving eyes stare blankly into the pitch-black corners of the ceiling. Without a sound, the heavy front door of the shelter swings inward, and an amorphous, towering dark shadow slips into the room from the exterior wilderness, its form shifting like liquid smoke as a pair of burning, blood-red eyes locks onto the shivering, weeping frame of the helpless captive. A sickening, layered voice echoes through the audio feed, letting out a horrific, wet chuckle as it gurgles about finding delicious, fresh food, before it abruptly pauses, its glowing red eyes turning directly toward the hidden reconnaissance bee as it notes with malicious amusement that a stray fly is watching them. Instantly, the holographic screen cuts to black static, severing the visual connection entirely and leaving the two viewers in total darkness. On the other side of the broken transmission, the ancient, nameless shadow crushes the mechanical bee into scrap metal before instantly pouncing onto the screaming woman, its entire form dissolving into a suffocating black mist that violently forces its way into her body through her nose, ears, and open mouth, causing her limbs to twitch in agonizing spasms as if millions of carnivorous insects are burrowing beneath her flesh until her internal organs are entirely hollowed out, leaving nothing behind but an empty, deflated human skin on the floor. Back in the safety of Zhao Qihao's quiet bedroom, Chen Tian takes a long, incredibly deep breath to steady his racing pulse, his voice dropping to a low, intense whisper as he states that the entity explicitly spotted their digital intrusion. A pale-faced Zhao Qihao is shaking uncontrollably, his skin as white as a sheet and his clothes completely drenched in cold sweat, prompting Chen Tian to grip his shoulder tightly and issue a stern, absolute warning that number 7 must never speak a single word about the indescribable, cosmic bug they just witnessed to any living soul in the global chat. Receiving a silent, terrified nod of understanding from his best friend, the Lord of Evolution bids him farewell, stepping firmly onto the glowing teleportation array to return to his own underground kingdom to prepare for the oncoming storm. The following morning, Chen Tian is gently awoken from his sleep by a soft, frantic telepathic nudge from his core pet, the Silver Ant Queen, Ying, who reports with maternal concern that tomorrow marks the final official day of the system's novice protection period, after which the catastrophic polar day will inevitably arrive. She reassuringly notes that even if her master is entirely unable to venture onto the scorching surface, the entire colony can comfortably move, forage, and expand deep underground. She explains that once their subterranean fungi farms are fully cultivated and paired with his existing subterranean crops, food scarcity will never be an issue, proudly adding that there are already over 100 fresh ant eggs sitting in the incubation room waiting to hatch. Smiling warmly at his devoted queen, Chen Tian instructs Ying to focus all of her majestic energy entirely on laying as many elite eggs as possible, promising that he will personally handle all logistical operations, water distribution, and food security for the base. He laments that their current stockpile of universal ant egg growth accelerator is simply too depleted to meet their massive expansion goals, deciding upon a strategic compromise to split their remaining reserves down the middle, pouring half onto the agricultural crops, and utilizing the other half to jumpstart the eggs, while he figures out a permanent solution to source more fertilizer. Chirping with absolute loyalty, the giant queen scurries back down into the excavation shafts to resume her vital reproductive duties, leaving Chen Tian to sit cross-legged on the stone floor and pull up his private messaging log with the third-rank leader, typing out a direct inquiry to Elder Shah asking if the veteran politician possesses any concrete intelligence or trade leads regarding where to source high-tier universal growth accelerators. The legendary Dragonhead replies almost instantly, textually noting that while he does possess highly lucrative leads on the item, the secretive faction holding the inventory is notoriously difficult to deal with, though he notes that if Chen Tian is willing to use his highly coveted platinum-grade spirit spring potions as bartering chips, success is practically guaranteed. When Chen Tian asks if it is convenient for the elder to share the contact info, the pragmatic old man replies with a digital chuckle, stating that it is convenient enough and that he is entirely willing to introduce the merchant, but dryly inquires what exact percentage of kickback or profit is in it for his own trouble. Shrewdly negotiating the price, the young summoner offers a flat rate of 5 bottles of potion, firmly stating that if the elder demands any more than that, he will pass on the deal entirely, eventually reaching a mutual agreement after a brief back and forth that secures the merchant's private digital handle at the exact cost of 7 premium bottles of potion. Muttering a silent prayer that everything goes smoothly, Chen Tian closes the chat log just as his two fiercest guardian generals, the intelligent Beisha and the silent, lethal mad demon blade ant, march up to his bedside to report for duty. Looking at the formidable pair, the Lord of Evolution rises to his feet and commands them to follow him directly to the central incubation chambers so they can utilize their remaining booster reserves to successfully hatch the 100+ ant eggs left by the queen. Entering the glowing, humid atmosphere of the incubation room, Chen Tian finds a total of 132 pristine ant eggs neatly sorted into 2 distinct piles by the workers, consisting of 10 robust bronze-level specimens and 122 standard normal-level eggs. Pulling out his remaining vials of universal growth accelerator, he moves down the rows with mechanical precision, carefully dripping a single drop of the sparkling liquid onto each translucent shell one by one. Exactly 1 hour later, the entire chamber echoes with a synchronized chorus of sharp cracking sounds as the shells rupture simultaneously, releasing a massive wave of 132 newborn worker and soldier ants into the room. Chuckling at the dazed, unmoving crowd of insect newborns, Chen Tian waves his hand and humorously tells them to snap out of it and report directly to Queen Ying for their operational assignments rather than just standing around like statues, watching with satisfaction as the swarm organizedly marches down the tunnels before he retreats back to his bedroom to scour the global trading channel for advanced fertilizers. After scrolling through hundreds of listings, a highly specialized post immediately catches his analytical eye. Spirit soil, quality platinum, function. Premium agricultural earth heavily infused with dense primordial life energy. A mere 100 grams can completely condition and permanently improve a 10-meter radius of land, while offering a significant baseline chance to promote miraculous crop mutation. Listed price, 100 grams for 150 normal level blood cores. Initiating a private message with the vendor, Chen Tian inquires if they are open to ignoring the core pricing to trade the specialized breathing earth directly for his custom platinum-grade potions, and what the exact exchange rate would look like. Within seconds, a new friend request pops up from an assertive merchant, utilizing a verified handle. Upon acceptance, the individual cuts straight to the chase, asking if he is truly the mythical buyer carrying the legendary platinum-level potions, and stating that if he wishes to acquire their silver-level growth accelerators, they will offer a non-negotiable trade rate of 1 bottle of potion for 2 bottles of accelerator. Following a period of aggressive and highly strategic friendly negotiations, Chen Tian successfully hammers out an expanded bulk agreement, trading 9 bottles of his prized Spirit Spring water to secure 3 large bottles of high-tier accelerator in a single sweep. Though he mutters to himself that the trade feels like a total loss and a massive waste of liquid assets, he immediately pivots to a separate chat window with an agricultural specialist named Shenong, who confidently states that while the Spirit Spring potion is acceptable, his non-negotiable rate stands at 200 grams of elite breathing earth for every single bottle of platinum potion. Agreeing to the terms instantly, Chen Tian asks for their maximum capacity and vows to take every single gram available, prompting the trader to unload 1 full kilogram of the soil, while noting that any further supply will require a strict 10-day extraction wait, resulting in Chen Tian transferring 5 bottles of potion to finalize the exchange. Closing out the digital interfaces, the young farmer hurries out to his underground agricultural plots, carefully dripping the newly acquired accelerators directly onto his developing crops. The magical results are instantaneous and breathtaking, as the leafy green sprouts begin to grow at a visible, rapid rate, indicating they will reach absolute peak maturity in less than an hour. Moving with eager excitement, he opens the containers of spirit soil and sprinkles the dark, shimmering earth evenly across the tilled fields, and the exact second the dust touches the ground, a gorgeous ripple of emerald green light cascades across the dirt, enveloping the entire cultivation zone in a dense aura of life. Activating his heavenly eye to read the newly upgraded terrain, the system overlay explodes with magnificent, golden text. Breathing earth spirit soil. Quality. Gold. Effect 1. Permanently shortens the natural growth cycle of any crops rated below the gold level by a staggering 99%, with the effect halving progressively for gold level and above until it becomes ineffective. Effect 2. Guarantees that crop quality will be continuously maintained at its absolute peak, with an extremely low chance to trigger spontaneous mutation and rank advancement. Effect 3. Harvested crops bear absolutely no toxic side effects, though the soil's overall quality will gradually downgrade over prolonged periods due to massive fertility consumption. Gasps of pure joy escape Chen Tian's lips as he realizes the soil has miraculously advanced to the glorious gold level, and as his gaze pans across the vast plot, he observes that the entire field has automatically divided itself into 3 distinct operational tiers: a highly concentrated gold-level inner ring, a robust silver-level middle ring, and a sturdy bronze-level outer perimeter. Watching the entire array of crops begin to grow madly and race against one another due to the massive soil upgrade, the entire subterranean field transforms into a dizzying spectacle of rapid botanical evolution, prompting the young pioneer to mutter that he needs to immediately discuss a massive new planting blueprint with his queen. Arriving at the threshold of the main room, he is greeted by the hilarious sight of the massive ant queen frantically devouring a mountain of stored rations, her physical frame having already grown a full size larger due to her impending evolution. Stunned by her massive appetite, Chen Tian jokingly exclaims that her extreme hunger is going to eat him out of house and home, causing the polite, maternal queen to quickly wipe her mandibles and apologize for her unseemly manners before warmly asking what high-priority task her master requires of her. Walking up to her massive chassis, the Lord of Evolution carefully lays out his entire long-term agricultural plan, drawing an obedient nod from Ying as she promises to immediately coordinate the worker ants to manage the fields according to his design. With the grand logistics fully settled, a satisfied Chen Tian returns to the brilliant green fields, rapidly harvesting the fully matured, giant crops before turning around to transport the massive, icy watermelons straight into the base's insulated ice cellar to guarantee his colony's absolute comfort before the burning sun of the polar day arrives. The dense, underground silence of the fortified, Level 2 ant nest is filled with calculated anticipation as the 21-year-old university survivor and Lord of Evolution, Chen Tian, retreats into the security of his private stone bedroom to finalize his survival preparations before the world changes forever. Sitting before the hovering blue holographic user interface, he navigates directly to the bustling global trading channel and lists his freshly harvested sweet potato vines, setting a competitive baseline price of 10 high-grade vines for a single standard blood core to swiftly drain the market of surplus wealth. Seconds later, he initiates a high-profile direct transaction with the second-ranked global powerhouse, Elder Xia Huachuan, the legendary former dragon head of the old country, expertly bartering 100 pristine, heavy sweet potatoes in exchange for 4 caddies of rare, energy-dense rice. Sensing a unique diplomatic opening with the old world leader, Chen Tian types out a casual yet probing message, asking Elder Xia if his vast dimensional storehouses contain any other premium commodities besides grains, specifically hunting for essential culinary seasonings to sustain morale. The dragon head fires back a sophisticated reply, confirming that he indeed possesses a highly coveted stockpile of silver-level quality sea salt, offering to gracefully grant the young summoner a free 500-gram ration at regular intervals on the strict condition that Chen Tian formally signs an exclusive survival alliance with his faction. A subtle smile plays on the young commander's face as he inputs a witty, cautious counter-response, accepting the alliance terms but half-jokingly remarking that because he is deeply terrified of being eaten alive by such a powerful political shark, he will politely decline any physical, in-person meetings for the foreseeable future. With the digital pact officially ratified, Chen Tian backs up his words with raw capital, utilizing his newly amassed fortune to trade exactly 1,500 standard blood cores for a massive 50-kilogram industrial payload of the precious salt, immediately peeling off 10 caddies from the shipment and forwarding it to his dependable best friend, Zhao Qihao, to ensure his brother's base remains fully provisioned. Suddenly, the ambient hum of the underground bunker is violently interrupted by the cold, metallic resonance of the long-absent world system voice echoing directly into the minds of every survivor across the globe, solemnly congratulating them for successfully enduring the horrors of the wilderness up to the 6th day. The automated herald coldly warns that tomorrow marks the absolute final day of the Universal Novice Protection period, after which a comprehensive global system ranking will be finalized to award exclusive, high-tier gift packs based on each survivor's exact numerical placement. Furthermore, the voice announces that at precisely midnight, a highly anticipated, temporary system shop will manifest for a limited time to allow pioneers to purchase critical operational supplies, strictly advising them to spend their hard-earned resources with absolute rationality. The system delivers a final, chilling warning, declaring that once the protection barrier completely dissolves, every survivor will be left totally exposed to the cruel realities of the untamed insect realm, meaning any roaming predatory beast or rival faction might effortlessly discover their coordinates, requiring absolute, unwavering alertness at all times. The moment the announcement fades, Chen Tian aggressively taps the interface to open the freshly calibrated global leaderboards, watching in awe as thousands of names flash past until the data locks heavily into place, revealing his own title, the Ant King Summoner, sitting at an incredible global survivor, rank of 20th overall. A sharp breath escapes his teeth as he mutters a curse of pure shock, completely stunned to find himself in the global top 20, while noting with deep respect that the enigmatic Elder Xia has locked down the astronomical second-place position worldwide. Right on cue, a message from a highly animated Zhao Qihao pings across the screen, with his eccentric best friend excitedly asking what rank he managed to pull, boasting that he has secured the 299th spot, a monumental leap from his previous lackluster placement. Within a fraction of a second, the central teleportation array in the center of the bedroom erupts in a blinding pillar of white spatial energy, and the robust, comedic figure of Zhao Qihao materializes on the stone tiles, stepping off the platform with a loud, theatrical laugh. Striding into the room with playful arrogance, the energetic young man demands to know why his best friend isn't rolling out the red carpet to show some proper respect, loudly asking for Chen Tian's final rank and smugly offering to completely cover his back and shield him from danger if his placement turned out to be lower than his own. Chen Tian lets out a dry, sarcastic chuckle, leaning back against his stone bedding as he advises his friend to stop flattering himself, coolly revealing that his big bro is currently sitting comfortably at rank 20, a revelation that hits Qihao like a physical blow, causing his jaw to drop instantly as he shrieks in pure disbelief. Pointing to the ticking countdown timer on the screen, Chen Tian notes that there is less than an hour remaining until the stroke of midnight, casually inviting his brother to sit down so they can wait out the final minutes together, leading to a long, comfortable bout of nostalgic bickering and friendly insults between the two old university roommates as the clock rapidly ticks away. The exact second the timer strikes 0, a massive, luminescent marketplace grid manifests in the air before them, its surface crammed with a dazzling, almost overwhelming array of mystical armaments, rare resources, and defensive structures. After meticulously skimming through the weapon and item descriptions, Chen Tian turns his head to the side, curiously asking, Number 7, if the temporary storefront displayed on his screen limits each operational section to a strict offering of only 9 distinct items. Zhao Qihao's eyes widen in surprise as he asks if Chen Tian's layout looks identical, prompting a serious nod from the Lord of Evolution, who suggests they immediately cross-reference their inventories line by line to determine if the system is tailoring the shop to individual needs. Following a rapid, thorough comparison of their digital screens, the two friends discover that their available items bear absolutely no similarities, confirming Chen Tian's theory that the merchant matrix is entirely randomized for each unique user across the globe. Shaking off the mystery, Chen Tian advises his friend to ignore the mechanics for now and simply buy whatever catches his eye, suggesting that Chihao contact the larger Survivor Alliance he recently joined to gather intel on what the broader public is witnessing in their respective stores. Turning back to his own screen, the monarch of the Endless Swarm systematically executes his strategic purchasing blueprint, ruthlessly spending a massive fortune of 27,823 blood cores to secure a game-changing haul. 3 caddies of platinum-level nurturing spirit fungus seed to jumpstart his underground agriculture, 1 legendary gold-level taming scroll to expand his beast taming capacity, 6 potent bottles of silver-level ant egg yield-boosting potion to rapidly inflate his workforce, and a massive, 50-square-meter small pond structure to establish a permanent internal water reservoir. With his shopping complete, Chen Tian turns his attention to his inventory to retrieve his highly anticipated 20th place ranking gift pack, which instantly dissolves in his palms into 4 radiant orbs of light that materialize as a 10,000 blood core card, a random platinum level item card, a random platinum level scroll card, and a beautifully filigreed platinum chest. Peering over at his companion, Chen Tian asks what magnificent treasures were contained within his rank 299th gift pack, drawing a miserable, soul-crushed sigh from Zhao Qihao, who states in a tragic tone that his rewards can be summed up in a single word: atrocious, as he was only gifted a meager 5 to 100 blood core card and a completely generic silver chest. Suppressing a cruel laugh at his friend's misfortune, Chen Tian crushes his currency card to instantly add 10,000 points to his operational balance, but before he can activate his platinum item card, a determined Zhao Qihao steps forward, defiantly raising his hands as he yells for the heavens to witness the opening of his silver chest. The latch snaps open with a crisp click, releasing 2 distinct orbs of elemental light into the air, prompting the generous, fiercely loyal companion to state that they will split the bounty 50-50 as he immediately reaches out to claim the first orb. As the light fades, a magnificent frost-rime polearm manifests in Chihao's grip, identified by the system as the Frost Spear, a silver-quality weapon laced with a trace of mild frost venom capable of temporarily inhibiting an enemy's cellular wound healing upon impact. Witnessing his friend's good fortune, Chen Tian reaches out and claims the remaining floating orb, which condenses into a lightweight shield woven from thick brambles, revealed to be the Wooden Vine Shield, a bronze-quality defense item featuring lightweight craftsmanship but thoroughly average defensive capabilities. Without a shred of disappointment, Chen Tian casually tosses the wooden shield straight into Chihao's hands, smiling as he remarks that the 2 items represent a perfect combination of offense and defense that suits his friend's frontline combat style beautifully. Bracing himself for his own major draw, the Lord of Evolution finally activates his platinum item card, triggering a blinding explosion of industrial light that materializes into an imposing, jaw-dropping mechanical warhorse that stands proudly on the stone floor. His diamond-quality heavenly eye immediately scans the metallic beast, mapping out its impressive platinum-level specifications: a maximum top speed of 120 km per hour, a staggering carrying capacity of 500 kilograms, an integrated basic smart AI core, and an advanced automated assistance matrix, all powered by a heavy energy core, boasting a continuous 72-hour operational battery life that can be completely upgraded and modified with higher-tier materials. Looking at the sleek, armored vehicle, a starstruck Zhao Qihao leans in with an unashamed, cheeky grin, wrapping his arm around Chen Tian's shoulder as he smoothly points out that it is getting incredibly late and that his best friend should totally lend him this badass warhorse for a while, cheekily reasoning that Chen Tian won't be able to ride a metallic horse out on the surface anyway once the blistering 70-degree extreme heat wave hits the terrain. Laughing at his brother's logical but utterly shameless maneuvering, Chen Tian gives his consent with a playful smirk, prompting an ecstatic Chihao to declare that he won't stand on ceremony as he joyfully leads the massive mechanical beast onto the teleportation array, vanishing in a flash of white light back to his own frost cave. Once the room is clear, Chen Tian takes a deep breath and simultaneously cracks open both his platinum chest and his platinum scroll card, his vision filling with a magnificent glow as he successfully obtains a specialized weapon advancement scroll, a secondary item card, and an exquisitely polished, radiant gold ring. Slipping the ring onto his finger, the system identifies it as the protective light shield ring of gold quality, an easily portable defensive artifact capable of projecting an impenetrable kinetic barrier that can effortlessly absorb and resist any incoming attacks rated below the gold level. Testing the gear instantly, Chen Tian projects a thought into the band, causing a translucent, humming dome of golden light to snap into existence before his chest, prompting him to call out to his silent, hyper-aggressive melee captain, commanding Mad Demon to unleash his absolute maximum combat power to see if his razor-sharp limbs can shatter the barrier. In a microsecond of terrifying kinetic displacement, the fiercely loyal Mad Demon Blade Ant transforms into a streak of blinding, blood-red lightning, slamming his blade-covered chassis squarely into the golden dome with a deafening clang, yet the shield merely ripples like water as the sheer kinetic feedback violently bounces the silver-tier vanguard backward across the floor. Shaking his armored head as he stabilizes his stance, the silent warrior telepathically reports that the shield is entirely too hard, rendering him completely incapable of breaking its structural integrity. Satisfied with his newfound invulnerability, Chen Tian deactivates the barrier, retrieves his platinum-quality frost bow, and firmly applies the high-tier weapon advancement scroll directly onto the weapon's frame. Instantly, the longbow escapes his grip and floats majestically into the center of the bedroom, bursting with a blinding, incandescent blue elemental light that reshapes the iron structure until it morphs into a deeper, menacingly elegant frost weapon known as the Frost Spirit Bow. Now elevated to the legendary diamond quality, the weapon's profile reveals that it can automatically condense 20 high-velocity Frost Spirit arrows that inflict a brief, localized freezing effect upon target impact. Furthermore, the arrowheads are engineered to branch out into jagged, scale-like claws inside the flesh, ensuring that any attempt to pull them out with brute force will violently widen the wound while inflicting severe, low-level frostbite across the target's nervous system, entering a tight 5-minute cooldown only after all 20 spiritual projectiles have been completely expended. Pocketing the legendary bow, the young commander turns on his heel and marches out of his quarters, descending into the deep architectural shafts of the nest to find his core queen beast. Approaching the maternal, doting Ying, he pulls out the newly purchased silver-level ant egg yield-boosting potions, carefully explaining the massive operational benefits alongside the volatile biological side effects of the growth serum. He intensely reminds her that the only missing prerequisite to permanently upgrade their territory to a level 4 ant nest is a massive inflation of the ant colony population, pointing out that once they cross that threshold, their base guardian, the fire spirit, can finally shatter its bottlenecks to ascend to the glorious diamond level. Nudging her master affectionately, the gentle Queen Ant agrees to the trial, chirping that she will gladly push her reproductive organs to their absolute limits for the sake of the colony, but playfully demands that her master must personally serve her the finest food and drinks his storehouses can provide to sustain her labor. Smiling broadly, Chen Tian vows to treat her like royalty, promising that at worst he will completely break the bank on the global markets to secure the world's most expensive supertonics to preserve her health, before gently administering the silver fluid into her mandibles. The exact second the potion slides down her throat, the effect is violently immediate. The Ant Queen's massive abdomen swells to nearly twice its original size, her compound eyes flashing with a touch of biological madness as she telepathically screams that she is experiencing an insatiable, agonizing hunger. Instantly responding to her distress, dozens of specialized transport and worker ants begin sprinting back and forth in a frantic, mechanical blur, hauling a continuous, endless stream of large watermelons and stored meat from the deep ice cellars straight into her maw as she begins to frantically devour the resources at a terrifying pace. Realizing the standard rations are vastly insufficient to match her hyper-accelerated metabolism, Chen Tian rapidly opens the temporary system shop, unhesitatingly spending 500 blood cores to purchase a premium bottle of platinum-quality blood chi supertonic pills, an elite medicine specifically engineered to rapidly restore lost vital essence and instantly return a straining body to its absolute peak physical state. Rushing back to her side, he uncorks the container and hands the glowing pills directly to his queen, instructing Ying to consume one, the precise moment she completes her frantic egg-laying cycle to prevent any permanent damage to her genetic matrix. Receiving her weak, grateful nod of understanding, the monarch of the endless swarm turns away to allow his queen the privacy to birth his new army, marching back into his private bedroom with a grim, determined expression written across his face. Locking eyes with his two core vanguard generals who stand ready at the threshold, the 21-year-old leader adjusts his gear and issues a low, resolute command, telling Beisha and Mad Demon to gather their strength because they are about to embark on a long, highly dangerous journey into the uncharted depths of the shifting world. The spatial fabric of the 21-year-old former university student's private sanctuary twists and warps violently as one young man and his two hack team beast pets step firmly onto the intricate, glowing geometric lines of the teleportation array, triggering a massive, blinding flash of pure white light that instantly swallows their forms and erases them from the chamber. When the sensory vertigo fades, the legendary Ant King summoner, Chen Tian, finds himself standing out in the open wilderness, his boots sinking into a fresh layer of pristine white snow, while his sharp eyes survey the adjacent farmlands that his dependable best friend, Zhao Qihao, has newly cleared. The soil is remarkably lush, teeming with rapidly growing crops that defy the sub-zero elements. Before he can fully admire the agricultural progress, the thundering rhythmic beat of heavy hooves echoes across the frozen terrain, and Zhao Qihao comes galloping up in a flurry of displaced frost, proudly straddling the sleek, armored chassis of the newly acquired platinum-level mechanical warhorse. Pulling the mechanical steed to a sharp halt, the eccentric companion beams with an insufferable, theatrical grin, leaning over the handlebars to loudly ask if his best friend thinks the ride is incredibly cool and badass. In a fluid, instantaneous motion born of pure reflex, Chen Tian lets out a dry, sarcastic chuckle as the blinding, crystalline structure of his newly advanced diamond-quality Frost Spirit bow manifests directly in his palm, its lethal energy humming as he raises the weapon, coolly asking this self-proclaimed master rider if he would care to intimately test the devastating, piercing power of what he playfully calls his crappy bow. Lowering the weapon with a smirk, the Lord of Evolution barks a crisp command for Chihao to stop showing off, and immediately transport him over to the hidden recesses of the grotto where the primordial ice soul pool rests, drawing a dramatic, submissive salute from his friend, who mockingly addresses him as young Master Chen before revving the engine. The mechanical warhorse tears through the snowy drifts at breakneck speed, dropping them off before the jagged, icy maw of the cavern system in a matter of minutes. Brushing the frost from his jacket, Chen Tian watches as an unrepentant Chihao loudly shouts for his brother to send a telepathic ping, the exact moment his aquatic training is complete so he can ride back to pick him up, casually declaring that he is going to go walk the horse before vanishing down the snowy horizon like a white streak. Staring blankly at the empty trail, a prominent throbbing vein pops violently on Chen Tian's forehead as he lets out a furious curse, swearing to the heavens that if he ever shows a single shred of genuine care or worry for this goddamn idiot ever again, he will change his own name, before turning on his heel to stomp deep into the freezing darkness of the cave. Navigating the slick, familiar subterranean tunnels, the monarch of the endless swarm reaches the edge of the steaming, glowing basin and dives headfirst straight into the hyper-refrigerated currents of the ancient ice soul pool, allowing the volatile frost toxins to violently seep back into his muscle fibers to continue tempering his gold-level physical foundation. He endures the excruciating, bone-shattering temperature for 2 grueling hours, systematically expanding his cold immunity until his internal energy grid stabilizes, prompting him to climb out of the pool and stride over to the towering, crystalline boughs of the epic-quality ice soul tree. Reaching up with his reinforced hands, he firmly grips several of the hyper-rare frost-poisoned ice vines and forcefully tears them away from the trunk. With a sudden, aggressive flick of his wrist to test their combat viability, the harvested vine whips through the air like a strike from a venomous snake, smashing squarely into a massive, solid pillar of cave ice and instantly shattering it into thousands of tiny, glittering shards. Thoroughly satisfied with the terrifying kinetic density and frost venom conduction of his new botanical weapons, he pockets the vines into his spatial inventory and gathers his 2 little core beast pets, guiding the silent mad demon blade ant and the clever Beisha back to Zhao Qihao's empty bedroom portal where a quick activation of the teleportation grid deposits them back into the safety of his own Level 2 ant nest. The moment he steps off the platform, his doting and fiercely loyal first contracted beast, the queen ant, Ying, scurries into the bedroom with an expression of overwhelming urgency written across her delicate features, telepathically reporting that her specialized reproductive organs have successfully birthed a staggering total of 936 fresh ant eggs within the hatchery. Chen Tian freezes in absolute, unadulterated shock, his eyes bulging as he repeats the absurd number aloud in disbelief, before frantically gesturing for his queen to lead the way as they sprint down the main architectural shafts toward the breeding grounds. Entering the humid, glowing atmosphere of the incubation room, the young commander is greeted by the breathtaking sight of densely packed, translucent ant eggs arranged in perfect, symmetrical rows across the stone floor, and a quick activation of his diamond quality. Heavenly Eye reveals the structural breakdown of the impending army: 10 glistening, silver-level eggs, 90 robust bronze-level eggs, and a massive ocean of 836 standard normal-level specimens. Recognizing that manually treating this massive population would take hours, Chen Tian immediately materializes 2 massive industrial wooden vats from his dimensional storage, pours in a heavy volume of fresh water, and carefully dilutes his newly purchased silver-level ant egg yield-boosting potions according to precise mathematical proportions. Turning to the surrounding workforce, he issues a high-priority tactical directive, ordering a coordinated squad of builder and transport worker ants to carefully lift and submerge every single egg into the glowing, chemical-infused baths to maximize their development. After a long, meticulous period of manual labor under the orderly, clockwork operation of the specialized worker ants, the final egg is successfully nestled into the evolutionary solution, prompting a weary Chen Tian to turn to his queen, softly suggesting that they allow the automated worker ants to completely take over the monitoring duties of this massive batch. The gentle, protective queen chirps in soft agreement, nudging her master as she requests him to hand over the remaining bottles of growth accelerator so she can personally oversee the systemic nursery rotations, allowing the young lord to hand over the vials, turn on his heel, and exit the sweltering hatchery to seek a breath of fresh air at the main entrance of his nest. Stepping out onto the threshold of his surface bunker, the digital clock on his user interface confirms it is already 8 o'clock in the evening. Yet as he looks up at the sky, a feeling of deep dread settles into his chest. Instead of a cool twilight, a blinding, merciless, and scorching sun hangs impossibly high in the heavens, casting an eerie, blistering orange glow across the drying landscape that forces him to mutter grimly to himself that the catastrophic polar day has officially arrived early. Knowing he can no longer delay his territorial expansion, he aggressively opens the main ant nest management interface and forcefully clicks the upgrade button, triggering an instantaneous, violent tremor that rattles the bedrock of his entire base as the system re-engineers the underground tunnels. The digital screen flickers rapidly, updating to show that his stronghold has officially evolved into a formidable level 4 ant nest, with an expanded territorial domain, radius of 200 meters, while simultaneously unlocking the truly absurd, soul-crushing requirements needed to achieve a level 5 upgrade. Chen Tian's mouth twitches violently in pure psychological exhaustion as his eyes scan the gargantuan resource hurdles demanded by the system. His total ant colony population must skyrocket to 50,000 active units. He must hoard a staggering wealth of 100,000 blood cores. Both Queen Ying and his own personal combat rank must forcefully ascend to the legendary diamond level. He must successfully bind a diamond-level nest guardian spirit beast, whose very life force will be permanently linked to the nest's survival, while allowing it free movement within the territory. He must construct one fully functional subsidiary ant nest branch. His total global ant army scale must reach 100,000 units, and he must somehow acquire a hyper-rare elemental energy core. Before he can even begin to process the sheer weight of these structural goals, the cold, ominous mechanical voice of the world system abruptly rings out within his mind, delivering a special high-priority notification to all survivors that today represents the absolute final day of the novice era. The automated system coldly warns that in a few short hours, the universal protection period will completely terminate for eternity, noting that after 7 full days of accelerated development, the pioneers should now possess a basic degree of self-preservation capability. Consequently, the system will systematically reduce its overarching intervention and gradually eliminate all survival assistance features. To his absolute horror, the voice explicitly specifies that the convenient item description function will permanently disappear from the interface, and all dimensional chests will completely stop refreshing across the wilderness, rendering their current numbers entirely fixed and finite, before concluding with a chilling wish for the pioneers to survive the oncoming natural disaster. As the reality of the dog system's harsh update sinks in, Chen Tian completely loses his cool, his knuckles turning white as he lets out a furious growl, realization striking him that he must immediately capitalize on his remaining privileges. He vows to list his premium spirit spring potions on the trading blocks, the exact second the temporary midnight shop closes, determined to make a final, monumental profit on his liquid assets before the market undergoes massive devaluation. Right on cue, 2 urgent, high-priority notification icons pop up on his communication tab, revealing direct inquiries from the second-ranked global powerhouse, Xia, Huachuan, and a wealthy elite pioneer named Yu Donglapan, both of whom are aggressively hunting for his legendary, purifying spirit spring potions. Following a rapid, highly intense round of cutthroat digital haggling, Chen Tian successfully negotiates a premium trade agreement with both parties, instructing the 2 massive buyers to wait a single moment. He dashes over to his automated crafting table, working in a frantic blur of motion to manufacture 1,000 bronze, stone arrows and hundreds of small, insulated wooden bottles. Half an hour later, he grabs the freshly crafted wooden containers, sprints over to the glowing edge of his platinum-level spirit spring reservoir, and rapidly fills every single bottle to the brim with the pure, life-giving elixir. Re-entering the trade interface, he seamlessly hands over 40 pristine bottles of spirit spring water to Xiao Huachuan and Yu Donglapan respectively, and the exact millisecond the dual transactions are finalized, his financial ledger skyrockets as he rakes in an astronomical bounty of 30,000 standard blood cores. Closing the screen, he turns and storms out of his private quarters, tracking down Queen Ying within the lower chambers to explicitly relay the system's terrifying warnings regarding the end of the novice protection period. With a grim, unyielding expression, he tells his core queen that from this exact moment onward, the entire colony must enter a state of maximum, permanent vigilance, demanding that she aggressively strengthen their defensive patrol routes across every quadrant of their 200-meter domain. Ying tilts her large head, her gentle eyes hardening with absolute seriousness as she telepathically confirms that she has deeply noted his words and will personally organize the subterranean deployments immediately. Chen Tian adds a crucial piece of tactical advice, instructing her to command all soldier, blade, and shield ants to immediately transmit a telepathic alert to the core leadership the very microsecond they encounter an anomaly, explicitly warning them never to drag out a fight or engage in reckless solo duels, since the swarm's ultimate battlefield advantage does not lie in single-target offense, but in completely crushing their enemies through sheer, unyielding numbers. Nodding in absolute obedience, the majestic queen turns her massive frame around to execute the mobilization orders, but before she can take 3 steps, the ground beneath them violently ruptures as the childish, high-pitched voice of the fire spirit bursts through the stone floor, its vines thrashing erratically as it screams in pure panic that a massive, world-ending disaster has struck. The living fortress desperately yells for its master to hurry outside and look, crying out that horrific wildfires are raging everywhere across the surface and that their entire base is being rapidly surrounded by a colossal, advancing wall of flame that will completely swallow their territory in a matter of minutes. A heavy curse escapes Chen Tian's lips as his face darkens with rage, his mind reeling as realization hits him that catastrophic accidents are already breaking out before the novice protection period has even officially concluded, leaving him to wonder in terror what kind of hell will be unleashed after the clock strikes midnight. Moving with explosive, gold-level speed, he sprints up the stone shafts and dashes straight onto the scorching surface, his vision immediately filled with a suffocating, apocalyptic nightmare as thick, black, billowing smoke chokes the sky and raging. Towering flames advance across the forest like a roaring tsunami. Keeping his composure amidst the blistering heat, he reaches into his spatial pouch, retrieves a pristine, glowing ice soul fruit, and shoves the epic quality treasure directly into the trembling vines of his sentinel plant, commanding Ling to swallow the fruit whole and use its massive cold poison energy to forcefully shatter its biological bottlenecks to ascend to the diamond level. The childish fire spirit grabs the frozen fruit, instantly absorbing the hyper-dense frost matrix into its fiery core. Its strength, aura, and physical size begin to grow at a terrifying, visible rate as its roots expand like ancient serpents, effortlessly shattering its evolutionary limits in a heartbeat to break through to the formidable mid-diamond level. Feeling the explosive, world-shaking power pulsing through its newly evolved bark, the colossal flame-thorn tree raises its branches to the heavens, shouting with roaring loyalty that its ascension is complete and demanding its master's immediate tactical orders. Chen Tian locks his eyes onto the approaching inferno and barks a brilliant scorched earth directive, commanding the diamond-level sentinel to completely clear out every single tree, blade of grass, and wild shrub beyond a strict 30-meter radius of their bunker, ordering it to systematically gather the debris and pile it into a defensive barrier to the side. The exact microsecond the words leave his mouth, the fire spirit's massive main body trembles violently, and thousands of thick, gargantuan, razor-sharp thorns violently burst out of the earth 30 meters away, pushing outward into the burning forest like an unstoppable mechanical harvester. The legendary roots chop down towering trees the moment they meet wood, and ruthlessly impale wandering predatory bugs the second they cross paths, leveling the dense ancient forest to absolute bare earth at a visible, dizzying speed. However, the sheer scale of the localized terraforming begins to drain the sentinel plant's energy reserves, prompting a slightly exhausted Ling to telepathically call out to its master, begging for a supply of blood cores to replenish the immense energy consumption of the technique. Hearing the plea, Chen Tian unhesitatingly unloads a massive, sparkling mountain of crystals from his dimensional pouch, throwing them at the base of the trunk as he commands the plant to absorb them all, fiercely declaring that if this treasury isn't enough, he holds tens of thousands more in reserve. Re-energized by the massive influx of raw wealth, the childish spirit lets out a booming, triumphant laugh, telling its master to watch its ultimate power as it unleashes its signature all-encompassing forest domain technique. Under the fire spirit's full power outburst, the advancing wall of thorns drives forward with mad, chaotic fury, its cutting speed increasing by tenfold as it clears a massive fire break around the perimeter. Seizing the tactical opening, Chen Tian utilizes his own elemental affinity to ignite the newly gathered piles of weeds and cleared timber, instantly constructing a roaring, 10-meter high counter-wall of defensive fire that acts as a perfect shield. The artificial raging flames completely burn all the stampeding, fleeing wilderness bugs to death before they can breach the base, filling the hot air with a suffocating, dense, and scorched smell of cooked carapaces. Just as the young Lord of Evolution lets out a sigh of relief amidst the smoke, believing the immediate danger has been contained, a sharp, crisp, and terrifying cracking sound suddenly rings out from the center of the battlefield. The brilliant, shimmering protective barrier that had shielded the subterranean sanctuary for 7 grueling days suddenly begins to ripple violently, its pristine surface webbed with a network of expanding, spiderweb-like fractures before detonating with a crisp, shattering sound that echoes down the dark stone corridors. The fragments dissolve into countless glittering specks of cosmic starlight that vanish into the suffocating heat of the newly birthed polar day. Concurrently, a stark, ominous system text flashes directly across the holographic interface of the 21-year-old former university student and Lord of Evolution, Chen Tian, coldly declaring that the novice protection period has officially terminated for eternity and that the exclusive, limited-time system marketplace has been permanently shuttered. In that exact, suspenseful heartbeat, the surrounding wilderness erupts into an apocalyptic cacophony of scraping stone and hollow chiding as dozens of gargantuan, mutated predatory insects violently bore their way out from the scorched subterranean depths, their multifaceted compound eyes locking onto the precise coordinates of the level 4 ant nest with terrifying, synchronized malice. Spitting a bitter curse into the dirt, Chen Tian observes that even the roaring, 10-meter high perimeter inferno failed to cremate these resilient monstrosities, prompting the monarch of the endless swarm to tighten his grip on his newly advanced diamond-quality frost spirit bow as he turns to his battle-hardened forces, fiercely commanding them to brace themselves for a brutal war of attrition. Across the desolate, smoke-choked horizon, the colossal vanguard of the wild bug swarm unleashes a deafening, collective roar that violently rattles the cavern's ceiling before launching a mad, thunderous stampede straight toward the vulnerable entrance of the hive. Exhibiting the strategic brilliance of the pioneer of the insect world, Chen Tian telepathically signals his towering base guardian, instructing the mid-diamond level flame-thorn tree, Ling, to hold its devastating area of effect attacks until the charging vanguard enters their dense defensive perimeter so they can completely trap and eradicate the invaders in a single, merciless stroke. The childlike, yet terrifyingly powerful sentinel plant pulses with eager compliance, waiting with absolute composure until the skittering horde breaches the kill zone before erupting with thousands of hyper-accelerated, metallic briar thorns that erupt from the parched earth like a forest of spears, instantly impaling the frontline monsters and turning them into grisly, leaking hedgehogs. As the glorious diamond-level aura of the Supreme Guardian plant explodes outward like a tangible shockwave, the lesser predatory bugs bringing up the rear are instantly seized by primordial terror, their unified formation breaking apart as they frantically scatter and flee in every direction to escape the slaughter. Spotting the rout, the tactical summoner roars for the fire spirit to immediately deploy its restraining abilities to capture a handful of the high-tier specimens alive, prompting a dense matrix of thick, emerald vines to shoot across the mud, wrapping the thrashing target insects in an inescapable, suffocating stranglehold. Stepping over the burning perimeter to examine the catch, Chen Tian activates his analytical diamond-quality heavenly eye, watching with narrowing eyes as the glowing system profiles reveal that the overall combat density of this massive wild swarm is strictly capped at the formidable diamond level. Recognizing the immense economic value of these apex carcasses, the pragmatic leader commands his forces to execute the remaining bound beasts with extreme precision, warning them not to obliterate the carapaces because the elite global traders will desperately require high-quality anatomical materials for crafting during the natural disaster. Just as the immediate threat to his stronghold is neutralized, an urgent, crimson message icon from his fiercely loyal but chronically unfortunate best friend flashes across his user interface, revealing a panicked, despairing plea from Zhao Qihao, who hysterically screams that he has been entirely cut off and surrounded by an overwhelming elite swarm inside his own territory. Recognizing the mortal peril of his companion, Chen Tian turns to his massive sentinel tree, urgently asking if its root system can temporarily detach from the bedrock to launch a joint rescue mission, though the fire spirit regretfully notes that while its true main body is permanently anchored to protect the core nest, it can seamlessly detach an independent, mobile wooden clone possessing the raw strength of an early diamond-level powerhouse. Accepting the tactical compromise, the Ant King summoner rapidly issues his domestic defense assignments, ordering his silent, hyper-aggressive melee captain, the mutant growth-type Mad Demon Blade Ant, alongside his brilliant underground scout, the mutated crypt, sandworm, larva, Baisha, to fall into line behind him while commanding his maternal, doting first contracted queen beast, Ying, to remain firmly entrenched below to safeguard their newly upgraded level 4 hatchery. Moving in a frantic blur of motion, Chen Tian sweeps the heavy diamond-tier bug carcasses into his spacious spatial inventory pouch, sprints back down the stone shafts into his private bedroom, and steps onto the glowing, humming teleportation array alongside his 3 elite pet familiars. In a blinding flash of spatial displacement, the group materializes directly inside the sub-zero environment of Zhao Qihao's private bedroom sanctuary, prompting the Lord of Evolution to quickly sprint toward the frozen threshold of the adjacent Ice Soul Cave. Before plunging into the hyper-refrigerated darkness, Chen Tian materializes several glowing stardust flowers from his dimensional storage, swiftly distributing the rare botanical specimens to Mad Demon and Baisha so the ambient spiritual energy can insulate their insect biology against the lethal, cell-severing cold toxins permeating the cavern. The exact millisecond they cross the threshold of the icy grotto, the air grows dangerously heavy as over a dozen monstrous, glittering predators detach themselves from the frost-rimed stalactites, completely encircling the rescue party with a clicking chorus of mandibles. The heavenly eye instantly flags them as elite ice marrow mantises and colossal ice marrow ants, apex subterranean entities characterized by their lethal, extreme cold-severing passive traits and insidious ice poison injection capabilities, noting that these massive guardians merely function as primitive watchdogs for the true lords of the marrow. Coolly stepping back, Chen Tian gives a casual wave of his hand and leaves the obstacle entirely to his forces, prompting the wood clone of the fire spirit to instantly expand its mass into a towering wall of briars, sending out hundreds of lashing, thorned vines that effortlessly pierce right through the hardened carapaces of the ice marrow mantises, snuffling out their lives in a single breath. Trampling over the frozen, green-blooded corpses, littering the cavern floor, the young university student spots Zhao Qihao lying in a thoroughly wretched, shivering heap on the jagged stones, prompting Chen Tian to let out a dry, sarcastic bark as he demands his lame friend get off the ground if he isn't completely dead, so they can rapidly evacuate the zone. Scrambling to his feet with chattering teeth, a deeply grateful Qihao joins the retreat, both men running flat out toward the light of the cave entrance with their heavy boots echoing against the walls. However, the moment they round the final bend near the towering branches of the epic-quality Ice Soul tree, a sight of pure horror freezes them in their tracks. A dense, claustrophobic sea of thousands of hyper-aggressive ice marrow wolf ants has completely blocked the exit, their frosted mandibles snapping in a rhythmic death march. Roaring for his friend to reverse direction, Chen Tian spins on his heel, only for Qihao to let out a terrified shriek, pointing a trembling hand toward the rear tunnels where a second massive wave of wolf ants has seamlessly closed the trap, leaving them entirely hemmed in from both sides within the narrow choke point. Grit-toothed and cornered, the Lord of Evolution refuses to let his best friend perish. With a fierce flex of his mental willpower, he commands the fire spirit clone to forcefully wrap its thickest vines around Zhao Qihao's waist, hoisting the shouting man into the air and tying him securely to the saddle of the heavily armored platinum-level mechanical warhorse that had been waiting nearby. As Chihao roars in a mixture of fury and confusion, demanding to know what crazy stunt his brother is pulling, Chen Tian darkly commands the intelligent smart AI of the mechanical steed to take this heavy, useless dead weight and ram a permanent path out of this frozen hellhole at maximum velocity. Receiving the absolute directive, the mechanical warhorse's engine lets out a high-pitched, metallic whine as it accelerates to its maximum top speed of 120 kilometers per hour, functioning as a motorized battering ram that brutally smashes, crushes, and splinters through the defensive line of the wolf ants blocking the front exit. The disoriented ice marrow wolf ant swarm quickly adjusts its multifaceted focus, their primitive hive mind prioritizing the escaping vehicle as the entire colony turns around to pursue the roaring mechanical horse down the snowy mountain trail. Watching their retreating figures with a chilling, mocking sneer, Chen Tian draws his diamond-quality bow, deliberately lets out a sharp whistle to draw the attention of the remaining straggler ants inside the grotto, and dives headfirst back into the deepest, most intricate labyrinth of the ice cave tunnels, intentionally acting as a decoy to lead the predators away from his friend's escape path. Sprinting into a secluded, pitch-black corner of a subterranean shaft to catch his breath, the young summoner pulls up his holographic interface to frantically type out a status message to his companion. But before his fingers can even finish tapping the digital keys, the heavy clattering of legs echoes through the dark as several highly coordinated squads of ice marrow wolf ants come rushing around the corner, forcing him to immediately cancel the transmission and dive headfirst into a secondary, uncharted thermal tunnel. Meanwhile, on the blistering surface, the loyal mechanical warhorse successfully drags a hyperventilating Zhao Chihao back across the threshold of his private survival shelter. The young man tumbles out of the saddle, crashing onto his bedroom floorboards as he frantically opens his communication interface with trembling fingers. Spotting the unfinished, ominous text from Chen Tian, an overwhelming wave of guilt and adrenaline surges through his veins, prompting him to race over to the edge of his base's glowing ghost bug pool to inspect the slowly wriggling, viscous black liquid within. Pounding his fists against the stone rim, Chihao hysterically begs the biological matrix to accelerate its production, realizing with absolute horror that the current conversion rate of the pool is far too agonizingly slow to provide the combat assets needed to save his friend before he is torn to pieces in the dark. Desperate and willing to sacrifice his own future, the loyal companion opens his high-profile alliance group chat and drops a metaphorical nuclear bomb into the forum, screaming for emergency assistance from any powerhouse willing to dive into an active hive to rescue his brother, solemnly swearing that if the mission succeeds, he is completely willing to sign a soul-binding contract to become that person's permanent, lifelong slave. This shocking proclamation from a rank 299th pioneer drops into the community like a massive boulder into a placid pond, sending violent shockwaves of discussion across the network as a mid-tier survivor ranked 233rd cautiously chimes in, asking for the exact coordinates while arrogantly noting that he doesn't require a slave contract, only the right to claim Chihao's most precious platinum-grade item upon completion. Zhao Chihao fires back a blunt, soul-crushing clarification, informing the bidder that his brother entered an ancient, mutated ant colony to shield him, explicitly warning that the standard soldier ants down there are generally locked at the terrifying platinum level, with even higher-order bosses roaming the dark, making it mathematically impossible for a mid-tier survivor to survive the drop. A collective gasp ripples through the digital chat as the lower-ranked members extend their immediate condolences, acknowledging that Chen Tian is as good as dead, since nobody short of the Supreme Alliance Group leader possesses the architectural power to contest a platinum-tier insect hive. Just as Zhao Chihao's hope completely evaporates, a dramatic, authoritative message from the mysterious top-ranked group leader, the legendary Shu Yuru known throughout the global chats as the omnipotent boss rain god, cuts through the noise, coolly stating that she possesses the raw military might to execute the rescue, but demands that Chihao must ensure his powerful friend permanently joins her alliance, while Chihao himself must formally submit to her slavery contract, sharply asking for the dying warrior's name. The moment the words Chen Tian register on the screen, a heavy silence falls over the channel before the rain god crisply replies for him to hold his position, while she mobilizes her primary rating vanguard. Deep within the suffocating, freezing dark of the ice marrow tunnels, the young Lord of Evolution is shivering uncontrollably from the unnatural cold, his back pressed against the moist stone of a hiding hole, while his mind remains hyper-focused on the real-time visual transmission streaming from his hidden, mechanical mini-reconnaissance bee. Utilizing the stealth insect's high-tech surveillance matrix, Chen Tian successfully locates the hidden chamber of the local ice marrow ant queen, letting out a sharp, satisfied breath, as his heavenly eye confirms his tactical suspicion that the localized queen's personal combat tier is merely locked at the baseline platinum level. Turning to his shivering, hyper-obedient vanguard captain, the summoner darkly commands Mad Demon to prepare his blade body to tunnel directly through the adjacent eastern wall, revealing his insane master plan to launch a surprise ambush to capture the apex ant queen alive as a political hostage. The battle-hungry Mad Demon let out a rare, trembling telepathic vibration, nervously asking if his master is absolutely certain about contesting a royal chamber, even offering to have the pets launch a suicidal frontal distraction so Chen Tian can safely escape the mountain. The newt gnat yet fiercely loyal, Beisha instantly steps forward, its sand-covered hide trembling but its eyes burning with determination as it chimes in, declaring that even if their carapaces are ground to dust, they will die proudly alongside their creator. Laughing quietly at the overly depressing and melodramatic tones of his inner circle, Chen Tian slaps his generals on their shoulders, telling them to cut out the funeral talk and get to damn work, as he orders the Diamond Tier Fire Spirit clone to softly erode the structural foundation of the dividing wall. Within minutes, the stone barrier is ground down to a paper-thin sheet of ice, but just as they prepare to breach, an unlucky roaming wolf ant accidentally trips and crashes straight through the fragile structural partition, exposing their hidden trench to the entire royal guard. Reacting with the instantaneous reflexes of a seasoned predator, Chen Tian roars for his forces to move, commanding the Fire Spirit clone to activate its full-power root domain to instantly encase the shrieking, massive form of the Ice Marrow Ant Queen in an inescapable web of blazing thorn vines before she can summon her endless legions. The exact millisecond the massive army of Ice Marrow Wolf ants comes thundering into the royal chamber to defend their mother, Chen Tian coolly steps directly behind the bound queen's neck, raising his diamond-quality Frost Spirit bow to its maximum tension as he addresses the horde in an icy, echoing voice, warning them to freeze in their tracks or their sovereign's head will be violently severed from her torso. Sensing the absolute, razor-sharp aura of impending death hovering inches from her nerve cluster, the terrified Ant Queen unleashes a high-frequency psychic scream across the hive mind, frantically ordering her thousands of soldier ants to immediately halt their advance. Trembling beneath the burning thorns, she demands to know what the human invader wants, drawing a cold, calculating smile from the young lord who demands safe passage out of the mountain layout, smoothly dictating that for his own long-term operational safety, Her Royal Highness will be accompanying them to the surface as a shield until they clear the border. Realizing she has been thoroughly outmaneuvered by a master strategist, the defeated queen lets out a low, submissive hiss of agreement, commanding her massive army to part like the Red Sea as the tense evacuation begins. Meanwhile, up at the snow-blanketed entrance of the treacherous ice cave, a desperate Zhao Qihao stands shoulder to shoulder with the enigmatic, cold-eyed Shu Yuru, pointing a shaking hand down into the abyss as he frantically begs the rain god to launch her forces, reiterating his absolute willingness to accept her slave contract the moment his brother is pulled from the depths. Seeing her face remain completely unreadable and unmoved by his tears, an unhinged Shi Hao fiercely declares that if her faction is too cowardly to face the swarm, he will gladly dive back down into the meat grinder alone, spinning around to sprint headfirst back into the dark cavern. A flicker of genuine emotion finally ripples across Shu Yuru's stoic expression as she watches his suicidal loyalty. Turning her head toward her gargantuan, elite guardian pet, she softly asks the ice armor tiger wasp if they should take this massive tactical risk. The loyal, formidable beast emits a deep, buzzing vibration, telepathically advising its master that while it would normally forbid her from entering such an unstable, high-risk environment, it will gladly disobey her personal safety orders to execute her will, prompting a satisfied Shu Yuru to stay topside while commanding the magnificent, armored wasp to dive into the abyss to provide the legendary Chen Tian with an unstoppable, heavy military hand. Deep within the twisting, claustrophobic subterranean corridors of the frozen mountain, a tense, tactical extraction is underway as two small, fiercely loyal beast familiars, the unyielding, razor-limbed mad demon blade ant and the highly intelligent yet inherently timid mutated crypt, sandworm larva, Beisha march with absolute military discipline through the darkness, expertly escorting the captured, massive ice marrow ant queen through the damp, frost-rimed tunnels. The heavy, rhythmic scratching of insect claws echoes through the hollow stone, instantly triggering the heightened survival instincts of Zhao Qihao, who has rashly plunged back into the abyss in a desperate bid to rescue his companion. Upon hearing the approaching footsteps, the dependable friend goes on immediate high alert, his heart hammering against his ribs as he grips his newly acquired silver-tier frost spear with white-knuckled intensity, raising the weapon to a defensive stance. The distance between the two unsuspecting groups shrinks rapidly with every passing heartbeat until they are mere inches apart at a blind, jagged corner, where a panicked Zhao Qihao chooses to strike first, lunging forward into the shadows while roaring at the top of his lungs that his chance has arrived for these damn ants to die. However, just as the razor-sharp tip of the frost-rimed spear is about to ruthlessly thrust forward into the darkness, the dim, crystalline light reveals a strikingly familiar face, causing Zhao Qihao to violently wrench his momentum sideways as he screams in utter disbelief that his best friend, Chen Tian, is actually still alive. Spotting the massive, multifaceted swarm of hostile ice marrow wolf ants lingering directly behind the young summoner's silhouette, a wave of protective, self-sacrificing adrenaline surges through the companion's veins. Without a second thought, the loyal fool recklessly rushes to the absolute front of the insect wave, positioning his own vulnerable body as a human shield, while frantically gesturing for Chen Tian to hurry up and run, while he bravely covers their retreat. A heavy, collective sigh virtually ripples through the surrounding familiars as the 21-year-old Lord of Evolution calmly steps forward and delivers a sharp, resonant slap directly to the back of Zhao Qihao's head, exasperatedly mocking his friend's weak but incredibly reckless bravado, before dryly pointing out that charging headfirst into a high-tier enemy's sovereign territory is just a fancy way of feeding them free kills. Gesturing toward the rear with a sardonic smirk, the pioneer of the insect world instructs his thick-headed brother to actually look at what his elite guardians, whom he playfully nicknames Idiot Demon and White Sugar, are currently escorting, revealing the captive royal matriarch and sarcastically asking if a master strategist who has just subdued the heart of the hive still requires a clumsy frontline warrior to cover his escape. The sudden realization hits Zhao Qihao like a physical blow, his jaw dropping as he processes the sheer absurdity of the scene before he bursts into an ecstatic, unrefined cheer, swearing loudly that Chen Tian is so fucking awesome for capturing a live, platinum-tier ant queen before his eyes drift toward the massive, armored aerial monstrosity hovering silently above them. Tilting his head in deep curiosity, the companion eagerly asks what kind of terrifying background this majestic ice armor tiger wasp possesses, noting that none of the insect corpses he had previously traded to Chen Tian featured a single entity of the legendary diamond level. In response, Zhao Qihao quickly recounts the entire sequence of desperate events that transpired on the surface, detailing his frantic bartering in the Global Alliance chat and his terrifying transaction with the mysterious leader. Hearing the confession, Chen Tian's expression hardens with genuine concern. He scolds his friend, stating he cannot believe Qihao was truly desperate enough to promise himself into lifelong slavery, sternly warning him that if he wishes to prevent such a helpless situation from ever endangering their lives again, he must work tirelessly to cultivate his own strength, especially since his core Ice Mountain Heavenly Silkworm is currently lingering in its fragile, primary form. Shifting his gaze to the towering, frost-armored wasp, Chen Tian commands the beast to lead the way to its summoner, muttering that the global 11th-ranked powerhouse's raw military capabilities must be truly magnificent to witness, prompting the entire bizarre procession to march out of the freezing shadows toward the bright mouth of the ice cave. Soon enough, the rescue party breaks through the threshold into the blinding glare of the early polar day, where a familiar, imposing silhouette immediately commands the landscape, standing tall against the swirling snow drifts. The magnificent ice armor tiger wasp emits a deep, resonant hum as it swoops downward to take its place beside the cold, regal figure of Shu Yuru, and the exact moment Chen Tian's sharp eyes lock onto her face, a violent shiver of pure, nostalgic shock ripples completely across his body. A broad, disbelieving smile breaks through his exhaustion as he ecstatically calls her eighth sister, exclaiming in awe that her hidden strength is absolutely mind-blowing, his diamond-quality heavenly eye instantly mapping out her jaw-dropping arsenal. Two colossal, diamond-tier fire spirit, tiger wasp queens pulsing with immense heat, the massive ice armor tiger wasp standing sentinel, and a small, hyper-coordinated army of 30 platinum-tier fire spirit tiger wasp workers hovering in perfect formation. A rare, elegant smile softens Shu Yuru's stoic features as she looks down at the young summoner, teasingly replying that her little Tian isn't doing too bad himself, though she feigns a touch of disappointment as she asks if he has grown so distant over the long years of separation that he now intends to act like a complete stranger toward his older sister. Chen Tian frantically waves his hands in a flustered, comedic panic, quickly defending himself by laughing that there is no way he would treat her like a stranger, half-jokingly admitting that her supreme, battlefield-tested aura is simply far too intimidating for a regular survivor to handle comfortably. Breaking through their heartwarming family reunion, a low, desperate psychic vibration ripples from the bound captive as the Ice Marrow Ant Queen telepathically points out that the human group is now entirely safe, demanding to know if the summoner will honor his word to immediately grant her freedom. A chilling, predatory glint flashes through the eyes of the monarch of the endless swarm as a mocking smile curls onto his lips. He steps directly into the royal beast's line of sight, coolly stating that he will gladly let her go, provided she is willing to completely surrender her life force to his absolute command. Pressing the cold, glowing crystal tip of his diamond-quality frost spirit bow directly against the center of her trembling forehead, the Lord of Evolution narrows his eyes and lays out his brutal terms, offering her a definitive choice between being slaughtered on the spot before her soul is released, or submitting entirely to his will as a loyal servant of the Endless Swarm. Sensing the inescapable, razor-sharp aura of impending death hovering over her core nervous system, the defeated matriarch lets out a long, tragic, and utterly unwilling screech of submission, causing Chen Tian to instantly materialize a high-tier subordinate contract scroll from his dimensional pouch, flattening the parchment onto her forehead before slicing his finger to let a single drop of his own evolutionary blood fall onto the ancient sigils. The exact millisecond, the three distinct components lock together. A brilliant, blinding cascade of faint golden light erupts from the contract, swirling furiously in the sub-zero air before merging seamlessly into the Ant Queen's grand biology. The next second, the surrounding snowfields violently shake as the newly christened ice cave, Ant Queen's internal bloodline detonates, her dormant energy reserves surging wildly as she shatters her evolutionary bottlenecks to forcefully break through into the early diamond tier in a magnificent display of raw power, prompting a starstruck Zhao Qihao to clutch his head in pure envy as he screams to the heavens that the goddamn monster has actually upgraded right before his eyes.